Hello. I don't know if you can hear me, but we'll be beginning momentarily. I'm running a few minutes behind, but I hope you can forgive me. Let me just set up here. Scheduled to begin at 7 a.m. Tokyo time, but as I say, just give me one. Here we go. Okay. And the topic of discussion is the film Skyfall. So just give me 1 second. Sorry about this. Okay, great. So, um, yeah, we're running a little bit behind, but maybe just we'll give it a few more minutes and then we can get going. So, today I just wanted to ask. I'm not going to be using my microphone today, so I'm going to be going at it with the phone mic. So, I hope that's okay. Um, and it should be okay, I think, because it's good. Also, yeah, I oftentimes have I don't know how the sound is until I play it back, and so I'm gonna use the phone mic, so the sound's gonna be a little bit muffled, but that's okay. I think the sound is usually pretty good with this sort of thing. So. All right, my friends, thank you. And yeah, there are people in the chat, so thank you so much. And as I say, we will be getting started on the discussion of Skyfall momentarily. So just hold tight and we will be on our way. Um, so we'll start the live stream soon, where we can discuss and hopefully have a good time. What would Bond say from according right to borrow a line from James Bond in Skyfall, where we'll have the advantage, right? So looking forward to it very much. And let me say, okay, how's everyone been doing these days? I hope you're having a nice weekend so far. It's it's really nice here in Tokyo. It was really quite warm yesterday. Now it's Sunday morning, so you're getting that kind of cool, crisp, chilly morning air, but that's fine with me. And, okay, we'll give it another minute and then we'll get going. So, all right. So I see Mike. Mike is here. Hello, Mike. Is that Rother's here? Hello. Alan is here. My dear friend. Hello. Callum Chung. Hello. Matthew. Kolka. Hello, my friend. Wilder. Hello. Kieran C. Hello. It's nice to see. Anonymous Fowler. Hello. Thank you so much. Seth. It's nice to see. Yang. Hello. Mainly movies. Hello, my friend. So Mike Eli, you say, Skyfall is easily my favorite of the Craig Bond films. Yes, that's well said, my friend. Erwin is here. Hello, it's nice to see you. Let's see. Oh, all right. Alan, thank you for checking the sound. Callum also as well. Zyrother, thank you. Damn Fool, Idealist Crusader, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Oh, Melinda, thank you so much, my friend. I'm gonna. I've been trying to get a. I've been trying to get a. Uh, respond to all the comments that I can. So thank you so much. But yours is coming up. I saw yours and I was just remembering Melinda, because we go way back, as you know. And Melinda, I've mentioned it, but Melinda, if you don't mind, maybe one of these days I'd like to make a video and dedicate it to you, if that's okay. And I'll just explain to everyone exactly why it is perhaps you are the the reason you are you are the one of the most important people as far as this channel is concerned, because without you this channel wouldn't exist. So maybe one of these days, if you don't mind, I'd like to dedicate a video to you and to just to talk about that story. So but Brazil, right? So my dear friend, thank you so much. And um, Kubrick Lover 1972 is here. Hello, Mystical 905. Thank you. Rider Rated 18, our dear friend. Rider Rated 18, you're the best. Thank you so much. Thank you. Um, and let's see, Callum. Thank you so much. Yes, yes. You're very kind. Very kind. Buy an Animal is here. Hello. Thank you. Cool Kids Clips is here as well. You're as energetic as always, my dear friend. I love it. Fantastic. It's nice to see you. Let's see. Mystical 905. Yeah, don't sweat the copyright stuff. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, yes. So, um, I'm just trying my best to. I've done all I can as far as the official means of trying to respond back. But as soon as I hear back anything, I will let you know. But thank you very much for the kind words of support. That really means a lot. It really does. So, thank you. And Mike says doing great in Vegas. Hope you're well, my friend. Erwin says doing good. Rewatched Skyfall twice this week. Oh, that's very good, very good. And then Kubrick Lover, thank you very much. And Wilder says very bad week for me, but I've been looking forward to this thing. Stacey Wilder, I hope you're well today. And my dear friend, it's always nice to see you. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts about this film Skyfall. So Wilder, so thank you very much for the comment, and it's a good one. So I'll take that as an opportunity to begin the conversation in earnest. So, my dear friends, greetings from Tokyo. This is Daisuke, and I am very happy to be here because today, hopefully, we can have a nice discussion, you and I, about the film from, is it 2012? Yes, the film is called Skyfall, and this is a film starring Daniel Craig as James Bond 007, and it has a number of very interesting features. There I go again with that word interesting, but I do believe that that is also the case for this film Skyfall, for reasons that I will try to get into over the course of the next hour or so. And so, before we get started, let me say that for those of you for whom this kind of discussion is the first time, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. It's so wonderful to see you, and hopefully, over the course of this, if you are interested, you and I can talk about this film Skyfall. So. First of all, let me say that the live chat is free and open, and so you are, of course, allowed to use the live chat. Hopefully, I can talk with you through that, and we can have our discussions going forward. Let me just say a few preliminary points, which is that I will do my best to get to everyone's comment, but of course I am only human, so maybe I might skip some comment accidentally or something like that. But if that's the case, then I apologize. But I will try my best to get to everyone. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I will, how should I put it? Yes, so the topic of discussion will be Skyfall. So and maybe some other James Bond films, but primarily Skyfall. So if you have any questions or comments for me about any topic other than Skyfall, please, I might, well, with all due respect, I'll probably just skip over it, and because I want to focus my energies today on this film Skyfall. So if you have any other topics or questions you want to bring to my attention, then you can always leave a comment under this video or video elsewhere, and I'll do my best to get back to it. But anyway, thank you very much for your interest and for the comments. And as I say, I will try to address them when I can. But they don't go unread or unnoticed by me. So just to let you know that all the comments are read by me. Um, I will be talking about details, specific details of Skyfall. So if you have not seen Skyfall and you are here, then my strongest suggestion is perhaps just turn off this live stream right now. Again, if you haven't seen it, I would suggest you turn it off and watch Skyfall first. And then, after you've finished watching Skyfall, you can always come back to this channel. Hopefully it's still here, and you can come back and it'll be uploaded as a video after the fact. And so you can always, it won't be live, I think, but you can always turn on the live chat and you can see what people are talking about as the live chat was going on. So in case you're interested, my friends. So that's my recommendation for anyone who wants to talk about Skyfall, but who hasn't seen the film yet. So that is. Oh, and also, yes. So I have been so overwhelmed over the past week in particular with your messages of kindness and friendship and support and understanding. And so I really want to thank you for that. You've shown me so much. You've been very welcoming to me, and you have been so accepting of me, and I'm very honored that you would consider me part of the group, as it were. So I'm very touched and moved that you show this type of welcomeness, and so thank you very much. And I of course will rely on you, my dear friends in the chat, to have that same type of openness with everyone who's there. If there are disagreements or if there are any types of maybe comments that are a little bit, that's okay. I will rely on you, my dear friends, to treat each other with the same kind of respect and courtesy, because I know I have been so fortunate to have felt that from you, my friends, and so I will, of course, be relying on you and your excellent manners and your excellent way with people. So, my dear friends, thank you very much in advance for all of that. And let's see, I think that's it. Is that the, oh yes, and at the end, I don't know how long this is going to last. These aren't set in stone, but we'll just see how it goes. And then when it reaches a type of natural conclusion, it'll end. But maybe around that time too, we will be making a decision about the next film to discuss. And so it's always a group consensus, and I know that Zyrother and our dear friends Zyrother and Kubrick Lover and others are always counting up the votes, as it were, and making polls and things like that. So I want to thank you very much, and so we'll figure out at the end, or around the end, the last 15-20 minutes or so, maybe less, I'm not sure, but we'll figure out at the end what film to talk about next. So if you are interested, you can stick around to the end, and then we will figure out what the next one is. Okay, so are you all set? Shall we talk about Skyfall? Okay. It's not Earl Grey tea. This is not Earl Grey tea. I know that Q drinks Earl Grey, so what does he say in the museum? I forget the quote. I can do more in my pajamas in the morning before my first cup of Earl Grey before you, and I can do more than what you can do in the field in the year. That's kind of an insult, but I think we realize from that Bond seems to be taken with Q because of the fact that Q seems to be able to stand on his own and show a certain sense of toughness. And you can tell that Daniel Craig's Bond has a smile on his face. He's enjoying the sparring, as it were. So anyway, what was I saying? So this is not Earl Grey tea, but it is tea. So anyway, Skyfall. I am, where should I begin with Skyfall? So let us begin with Skyfall. So the James Bond film Skyfall is from 2012, directed by Sam Mendes, and it stars Daniel Craig and of course a number of other characters that we will talk about hopefully later on in this live stream. And it also stars Judi Dench as M, and that's probably one of the most crucial characters, not just in this recent run of James Bond films, of course, but also in this film in particular. This film is if anything, it's a film about James Bond and M, or even more specifically, it could be said to be a film about M. It is a very Emmy film when it comes to James Bond films. So it's perhaps the most Emmy Bond film, I would suggest, but I will go into some reasons why. And so, but it is also, I think, considered, generally speaking, to be a very popular James Bond film. I know it enjoyed a great deal of critical success and popular success upon its release, as I say, several years back in 2012. And so it's the third film, so it follows the cycle of films from the Daniel Craig era, starting, excuse me, with Casino Royale and then continuing on with Quantum of Solace, and now we have Skyfall. I am also, I have to say too that this is a modern James Bond film, right? Modern in the sense that it's been made in the last 10 years or so. And so it's a film that I think I have seen, let's say, the least. I have seen it a number of times already, but it is a film that I haven't seen as many times as, say, I don't know, Diamonds Are Forever or The Living Daylights or something like that. But I have seen it a number of times, and I did see it in the theater when it was released, and then I of course, I got the subsequent home media releases, and then I was watching it fairly frequently as the time passed, and then now we have today. So I've seen it a number of times already, but that also means that I'm not necessarily the biggest expert when it comes to Skyfall, and so I don't have all the details. So I might not be able to answer all the questions that you might have towards me with regard to Skyfall. So, but I am coming at this from a fan's perspective, as I do with all of these films, and I think it really comes down to a number of things. I always think about the film Skyfall in two general perspectives, one of which I admit I'm still up in the air about. Okay, so the first perspective I look at film Skyfall through is as a film itself and as a piece of entertainment and as a piece of James Bond cinema history, because that's what it is now. It is part of the James Bond film landscape, the Eon Films landscape, and so I look at it like that and how it operates as a Bond film. And in that perspective, I see it as a film that in many ways is making a lot of callbacks and a lot of connections with past Bond films um, in ways that I think are um, clever, sometimes a little bit in a very great way, subtle, and even the little things that might not seem at first glance to be connections or homages to past James Bond films. I think they're there. And so I'll try to explain those as we go along. So that's one general perspective I look at Skyfall through. The other general perspective I look at it through as is as an example of the Daniel Craig era. Now, as we know, the Daniel Craig era isn't officially over yet. There is still another film to go. And so it's a question of when that film will come out, but that's a whole nother discussion entirely, and I won't even begin that right now. But uh, as far as this film goes, Skyfall, this is, as I say, part of the Daniel Craig James Bond film legacy. And so I look at the film too as as how I am beginning to react and feel about Daniel Craig and looking back on the Daniel Craig era. Because at this time when it was released, I admit that Daniel Craig was still very fresh and he was very new. And so it felt like now when we get to the third film, it feels like, at least for me, the rhythm is now established, such as it's now it's now possible for me as a fan of these films to begin to assess the legacy, if you will, of Daniel Craig's run. As I say, it's not over yet, but I think there are a lot of things that one can pick up, including, right, is who is your favorite Bond, right? What is your favorite era, and that kind of thing. And to answer those questions, of course, we have to think about what are the specific traits and characteristics of a particular actor's run in the films, or the particular traits of a performance that an actor gives to the role of James Bond, et cetera, et cetera. And so here is where I begin to have those discussions. I suppose I had them before, but here they really begin to occur for me in earnest. And so I think those two perspectives, the general perspectives on the film itself and on Daniel Craig's run, seem to go hand in hand for me for whatever reason when I think about this film, Skyfall. And in the end, at the end of the day, for each of those analyses, I think I do have I do have things to say in a positive vein, and I perhaps have things to say on a maybe slightly critical vein, or questions that I have about plot and structure and the like. And as I say, I'll get to those in a moment as well. But I think overall, I am still going through my assessment, my own personal assessment and analysis. But also, at the end of the day, I'm very entertained by this film. I find it is a very exciting work, and there are a lot of I really mean this, a lot of exciting and very iconic and very clever twists along the way. And as I say, I don't think I don't think it's perfect, and I'll try to get to those reasons why. Maybe you, my dear friends, who know this film much better than I, maybe you can guide me and teach me about as to how I can work out some of the questions that I have about this film, Skyfall. But that's the general feeling that I have, and that's the general focus and trend and trajectory that I'd like to hopefully have along the way as you and I discuss this film. So that's my opening bit, as it were, regarding Skyfall. But before I get into anything further, let me now go to the chat and see how everyone is doing. Let's see here. Oh gosh, this is now the chat is always skipping around on me like this, so I apologize so much. Okay, so Island, yes, Island 007100. It's nice to see you. By the way, Island 0071, does that have anything to do with maybe an affinity for James Bond films? That I love that name, by the way. Um, and it's always nice to see you. Bill Bergman, bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. My French is very rusty. Je ne peux pas parler français très bien. Pardonnez-moi. Salut. Comment ça va? Carl Hayes, hello. It's nice to see you. Um, you know, yeah, my French is so bad. I suppose I like the taxi driver in A View to a Kill. I then go into English. But his French is much better than mine, of course. Um, let's see. Marcus Britt, hello. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. Thank you so much for stopping by. Let's see. Cracked Rod, hello. It's nice to see you. Daisuke is what I watch for comfort. A friend, despite not knowing him. Oh, thank you very much. That's really kind of you. Thank you. Yeah, this internet thing is very, very interesting, is it not? But it's this. We are friends, you and I, Crack Rod. So thank you so much. Seth Walsh says this movie was great. I forgot I had the concierge from the Grand Budapest Hotel. Yes, yes, Mallory. Yes, we'll talk about Mallory, um, and his character. It is I think, a very interestingly established arc of a character that we see in Gareth Mallory, um, and I suppose it's interesting. Um, well, we'll get to that as well, and the whole thing with the names and things. But yeah, yeah, Mallory, what a character! What a character he is. I think his character is one of the great strengths of the film, for reasons which I'll get to hopefully momentarily. Let's see. Carl, thank you so much. Ryan, our dear friend Ryan, film vlogger, great friend, great YouTube channel, great, a great cinema lover and enthusiast. Ryan Chataway, my dear friend. It's so nice to hear from you. So nice to hear from you. And oh my goodness, thank you, Ryan. You left behind what is it called? A super chat. So thank you so much. Very, very kind of you. Thank you. Oh, uh, uh, totally unnecessary, my dear friend, but the gesture and thought is very appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you. You didn't have to do that, but you did, and I'm very moved. Thank you. Ryan Chataway, my dear friends, if you haven't checked out his channel, you've got to check it out. Ryan Chataway. Subscribe and comment on his channel and the like. He's a dear friend of ours, and thank you so much. Ragman, thank you. Let's see. Mars and Worldwide is here from New York. Hello, it's nice to see you. Let's see. Matthew Kulka says, I was committed to making this one, had zero sleep Thursday. Oh my goodness. And got through my day of work and got through Skyfall like a champ. I'm glad I remembered to watch. Oh my goodness. Thank you very much for your enthusiasm and energy. Um, I yeah, thank you. How would you like the film, by the way, Matthew? Let's see. I'd love to hear about that. Yeah. Please let me know. I mean, with all the work that you put into making it and watching it, I'd love to hear that, my dear friend. Yeah, my goodness, thank you. You deserve an award. Thank you so much. Jared is here. Hello, Jared. What's up, everyone? I really love this film. I remember not being able to watch this in the theater as I had seen other movies prior and just never got the chance to see it on the big screen. Um, and Seth says, Seth Walsh, by the way, another great friend, YouTube channel. Seth Walsh just started recently, but it's talking about a lot of movies. So, Seth, it's nice to hear from you. Jared, also, I mentioned earlier, Jared, he and I had this great interview a few weeks ago. So, Jared Wignall, and also Jared, a published author, Jared Wignall. So, anyway, it's nice to see the both of you. So, Seth, now to your comment. Many great things to mention. Bond is so fearless in this one. He has such great clothes. Yes, the height of expensive Bond fashion. Tom Ford, yes. When he adjusts his cufflinks and jacket, switching carriages. Yes. So, Seth Walsh, thank you very much for that comment. Very apropos. And so, let me now just go to just a discussion of that opening credits sequence. And so, yes, it's an opening credit sequence that we have a number of interesting things going on. Well, actually, let me take that back. What did I say? What is an opening? Well, what did I say? It's not the opening credit sequence. Excuse me. It's the pre-credit sequence. Pardon me for that faux pas. It's the pre-credit sequence. So first of all, we don't get the traditional gun barrel. We get a kind of gun barrel-y type of shot. It's been remarked upon, the very opening shot with the out of focus, and in the distance we see a figure who comes out of the side and walks down. Excuse me. And then we see the close-up of James Bond, a very, how shall I put it, trailery-esque type of shot. Da-da, right, and all this. So, and then it gets into the adventure all the way, and we realize that it is not a one-off or a little mini adventure that has nothing to do with the rest of the plot of the film Skyfall, but in fact the pre-credits is quite related. think to the overall plot of the film Skyfall. Although there is a question about that in my mind, and I'll get to that later on in the live stream. But in any event, the plot that I'm referring to in this pre-credits is this trying to retrieve some kind of data set, which is from some kind of hardware, and this data set or a hardware component is, we understand, housing or the storage unit for some kind of list of agents. And we understand too that these are agents that are part of either NATO or the member nations of NATO. It's not quite clear to me exactly which one, but in any event, and these are agents that we understand later from Mallory, that are embedded in various, let's say, enemy organizations around the world. And so the whole risk of this being falling into the wrong hands, of course, is the idea that these identities of these undercover agents will be blown, and thus their covers will be blown. They will be under risk, national security threats, etc. So it is important, so important to get this. And so this leads to this little mini adventure. I understand the pre-credits. Bond trying to track this down, trying to track something down. It becomes the MacGuffin. We understand there is a very, I think, harrowing moment on the field, or in the field as it were, with this other agent we understand whose name is Ronson. And there's a moment here where time is of the essence, and one has to choose between the life of Ronson, or trying to save his life, or trying to pursue this list, or this MacGuffin. And then we see now Bond in the field, but also being able to interact with M, who is in MI6 headquarters, we understand. And then we also, or in London, and then we also understand later that Bond is in the field with another agent whose name is, I don't know. And then, but of course, we'll find out later what her name is. But this is, of course, the character played by Naomi Harris. And it's we see her and Bond working together, and that leads to the climax of this particular mini adventure, which is it's quite suspenseful, and it leads into this credit sequence involving the titles and the song by Adele, and we know, of course, the rest is history. But that is the general gist of this little mini adventure, right? And so we already get a number of things that are very noticeable off the bat. There is a chase sequence involving uh, this particular enemy or mercenary assassin of some type. We understand later whose name is, I think, Patrice. And then we get this chase, and this is also in, I understand, Istanbul, and we see all the hallmarks and trappings and traits of not just a James Bond film, but a modern day James Bond film. So, for example, we see the live satellite hookup, or the ability to communicate live with agents in the field and people back home in HQ. So that's when I think we got that from the Pierce Brosnan days, and I think in particular it really came to the fore in, I want to say, Tomorrow Never Dies, and we see the people back in HQ being able to see in live real time what Bond is doing, and that's something that has carried on, I think, throughout the course of this modern era of films. That's one thing, and it also leaves us, I think, in very interesting window of plot development that we haven't seen before. Okay, and that's not to say that the past films were bad. Not on the contrary, I love the past films. Hopefully, I've been able to make that clear over these past live streams. But the point here is the fact that M is able to communicate directly with Bond on the field is a very important step in terms of the integration of the character of M into the plot very directly. I would suggest that M as a character was never directly integrated into the plot machinations of Bond's mission. He would always be there to give the orders or to assign the duties to Bond, and sometimes M would be in the field or on location, but M wouldn't necessarily be part of the plot specifically. And but with Judi Dench's M, we have seen moments time and time again where I think her M has become quite central to the plot in a number of ways. I think perhaps the one that came prior to this most directly would be something like, say, The World Is Not Enough, where it's very arguable that M's character is crucial in that plot. Well, here in Skyfall, it is very crucial. And I think one of the ways we can begin to see how indeed it is crucial is in this pre-titles sequence, because we see her interacting with Bond and also the other agent whose name is Eve, and we'll get to her, of course, later. But we see the communication line between them, and also between Bond and Eve, Naomi Hammer's character. And so, but this means that M becomes integral to the actual plot itself. And it's M's decisions that, in essence, we see dictate kind of what Bond is trying to do here. Um, this is a very interesting thing too, because it's it's we see Bond and the agents here kind of acting on orders, kind of. They do go and do their own thing, and leads to the stunts involving the chase through the city, and leading to, and the various aspects of the environment, which is very nice, and the vehicles, and the development of the vehicle chase leading up to the pursuit on the train, and then leading to the rooftop, and then the whole thing with the bridge, and um, the final, what should I do? What should I do? So there, I think, bring up a whole set of what's the phrase of what's the phrase? I'm blanking out on my vocabulary today. What's the phrase? A whole set of implications. Thank you. Implications in terms of Bond and field work. It's interesting because it's very, I think, a general trait of James Bond films that we have Bond tending to most of the time act under orders, but oftentimes we see him acting on his own. He goes against the orders, or he goes against the mission, and he acts on his own, but he does it on a hunch, or we understand that he's on the right track or something, or maybe a personal vendetta, a license to kill, or and uh, so we often see him as being a his own agent. And even in the film Quantum of Solace, there was a moment where he was actually a type of rogue agent, to the point where I think M actually had a capture or kill order out on him. And so, which is, I think, not insignificant. And I think that's actually very relevant to the M Bond dynamic that we have seen, and that is, I think, on display in this film. But the point is that it's interesting that in this pre-titles, it seems like Bond and Eve, they are pretty much kind of acting on orders. They are acting at the behest of M, and what it is she is ordering them to do on the field at the particular moment. Case in point, the issue with Ronson, the case with Ronson. Bond was, of course, torn. He wanted to save Ronson. He wanted to make sure that something could be done for him, because he was dying. But in his dying moments, at least. But M said, you have to pursue this hard drive. And so that's one thing that we see Bond do. Again, arguably on the orders of M. The other thing too is Eve. Then when she says, at the very end of the pre-title sequence, should I take the shot or not? And then M says, take the shot. And so that's her order, and then she does take the shot. And then, of course, we understand that unfortunately, she missed, and instead it hit Bond, and then Bond fell down this huge, fell off the train, fell down the waterfall, fell into the water, boom, and he's still alive. I don't know how. I don't know. Maybe it was maybe it was all those Heinekens he was drinking afterwards that brought him back to life. But anyway, so that is the situation for the pre-title. So actually, I would suggest that there are some interesting, seemingly contradictory dynamics that are already at play in this. Contradictory to what we might have seen up to now, let's say with classic Bond and modern Bond. And I would actually suggest that it's all here represented, I think, in a very crystalline and very neat manner. And I appreciate this pre-title sequence on that regard, or in those regards, very much. Also, we should note the way that the chases are shown, the fights are shown. This is following the heels of Quantum of Solace, and we see Sam Mendes' direction and action, and we see that information, I think, is being clearly laid out. This is not in the style of Jason Bourne films or Quantum of Solace, so we see this, I think, established quite vividly, almost immediately. So that's, I think, a statement in its own right. So that's very important. We also see the introduction of Eve, and we will, of course, understand that she becomes, or not she becomes, she is Miss Moneypenny. And we therefore understand that this is the establishment of some kind of past relationship. Now we understand Bond's relationship with Moneypenny in the past has always been this type of relationship of sort of innocent flirtation. They have a mutual affection for each other, and but there might have been something in their past we never knew about it. Not sure, but here we have this establishment of Moneypenny the character, and seeing her what is it, a kind of origin story, for lack of a better phrase. So this is I think that's another interesting aspect as well. And we see also that Moneypenny, or Eve, is someone who has very direct, her actions have very direct consequences as far as Bond. She nearly killed him, actually. So that is something that I think they refer to later when they meet in the first third of the film back in London. So and they have this that I think establishes this very friendly banter, repartee, and almost, I think, flirtatiousness. And there's some interesting mysteries about their characters and their relationship. It's not quite clear to me, actually, for instance, whether they became very intimate in that particular moment or not. But anyway, I I'm actually I can interpret that to go either way. But that's let me just I'll hold off on that and stick with the pre-titles. But the point here that the pre-titles is it seems to be this great representation of the clash, or the parallelism, if you will, between classic Bond and modern Bond. Okay, and also there are some very neat little maybe uh, setups visually that I think can be foreshadowing of setups that we'll see in later aspects of this film, Skyfall. I think primarily the use of the train, and how there's a type of pursuit that is utilizing a train and starting from the end and going forward. We will, of course, see a train type of pursuit later on in the film Skyfall in the London Underground, and Silva and Bond. And this is after the attack on M and the particular hearing, the committee hearing. And then I think there are also aspects that show us the characteristics of Bond. I think Seth mentioned it, of course. After Bond is able to jump onto the train carriage, he straightens his cuffs and that sort of thing. I always found that moment actually to be a little bit maybe I don't know. I mean, it's a James Bond cinematic moment. You know, he jumps on and he straightens his shirt cuffs, because the idea is that a little bit of the cuff, should extend out beyond the end of the suit. So that is to give a little bit of line. You know, the suit ends, and then there's a little bit of the white cuff. So that's part of, I guess, fashion. That's a fashion rule, right? But so he adjusts his cuffs. I never actually, to be perfectly honest, I always thought that that was a great cinematic moment, but I don't think it was necessarily a true to life fashion moment. I don't. it reminds me kind of the bit in we'll talk about it later, but the bit in The World Is Not Enough when Bond is underwater and he adjusts his tie, like if I were underwater, would I adjust my tie? I'm not sure, but or so I always think about the same thing. If I were on a tractor and the tractor crashed into the end of what the carriages of a moving train and I jumped on, and the first thing I do after I jump on would be to straighten my cuffs. I don't know, but at the same time, I'm not James Bond, so I can't pretend to be of that same level. I'm definitely not. So maybe yes, he had the wherewithal to adjust his cuffs, and they are very important actually, because not just for looks, but I don't have any expensive suits, but I sometimes wear suits for work, or I did before this particular world health crisis hit last year, and I work primarily from home now, so I don't wear suits actually at all anymore. But the there is a little bit of a comfort level. If the shirt isn't out, it feels a little bit tight, and so I guess I can understand from a comfort level he wants to do that. If your arms are feeling discomfort, it may be difficult to fight or difficult to do something like that. So, but anyway, yeah. So that moment Seth brings up, I think that's a very classic one. It's another trailer moment that I think has become a very iconic one in the Daniel Craig era. So, but there are two things that I want to address as questions, and I'll maybe ask you, my dear friends, to help me out with this and see if you can help me, because I do have a number of questions here. First of all, talking about Eve at the end, before that very eventful moment, this very suspenseful, climactic moment with the shot. Take the shot. She takes the shot, and of course we understand it hits Bond, doesn't hit Patrice, and she's stunned and she's shocked, and she's just standing there, and she's seeing Patrice like standing there, and then the train goes under the tunnel. This I don't know. I was always expecting this. What I always think that whenever I think about it in my memory, Patrice like waves. I don't think he waves, but I always like to think that he does. But anyway, thank you. I'll see you later or something. But that moment with Eve, I don't understand why she didn't take another shot. Was it that she had one bullet in her gun? I don't know. It would seem like if it was that important for national security, it seemed like she should take another shot. I mean, he's right there, just stop him. Um, you've accidentally injured a fellow agent. I understand the stress of that, but at least take the other shot, right? So I never understood why she didn't do that, and because obviously she had enough time to do so, but I understand to set up the plot and to because the list is very important, and pursue the list to pursue to Patrice, that's very important. Although the next question that I will ask you later on is, how important was the list in this plot to begin with? Because it seems to me that the main purpose of the plot of Skyfall isn't the list. The list is merely the catalyst. The main plot of Skyfall seems to be Silva's plot of revenge against M for what he perceives to be a wrong or injustice committed against him due to the acts or decisions of M. But it seems to be much more psychologically intertwined than a revenge plot. It seems to be something to do with Silva looking upon M as a mother figure of some kind, leading to the very climactic battle at Skyfall. But that seems to be the plot. So therefore, the list itself is a catalyst, and it's not even the MacGuffin that is carried through the entirety of the film. It's there in the pre-credits, and it's, I would say, somewhat mysteriously dropped, maybe approximately halfway through the film, perhaps. But so that's a kind of side question, I suppose. But the question so far is, why didn't Eve try to shoot more than once? And what was the significance of the list in the long grand scheme of the plot of Skyfall? And the second major question I have is, this clearly establishes the type of relationship that Bond and M have. And it is very clear, I think, for me, that M is a very cold and calculating leader. She is a type of general. And so she is giving orders, and her orders are they can lead to very terrible consequences on a human level. But she is acting she's acting in order to preserve this type of national security. And so that's not to say I think she's a terrible character, but what I am saying is that her orders, I think, are very cold and calculating, and thus they lead to, for instance, Bond getting shot and nearly dying. They also lead to the death of Ronson. We also find out later that they lead to what we understand happened to Silva in the hands of maybe antagonistic forces and back in the 90s. And so uh, this is to say that there doesn't seem to me, at least at this point, to be any type of establishment of a relationship between M and Bond that would make Bond so emotionally invested in the well-being of M, if you know what I mean. Of course, there is this. Of course, M is his boss, and of course, it's not like I'm not saying that Bond doesn't care about M. I'm not saying that at all. But it's very striking to me that Bond reacts so emotionally as he does at the end of the film, because we know at the end of the film, and as I say, I've warned for spoilers here, but we know at the end of the film, M dies, and we see Bond's reaction, and it's quite an emotional one. And we see all the efforts that Bond has taken throughout the film in order, in essence, to protect M. So, why is it that Bond feels this level of devotion that he obviously expresses at the end of the film, Skyfall, when it's the fact that, for example, as an example, in this pre-title sequence, there doesn't seem to be any basis, I would suggest, for any kind of emotional investment by Bond in M as a human being, as a boss, as a person, of course, and of course he wants to protect her as much as he wants to protect Ronson, etc. But right, what is that establishment? Now, I think I have an answer to that, and I think the answer to that is linked to the way that Silva as a character is characterized. But this is very curious to me, this Bond M relationship, and we see it also in past Bond films, like Quantum of. Well, maybe let's start with Casino Royale. Casino Royale, there seemed to be this type of maybe I don't want to say well, there seemed to be a type of mentor type of relationship in M's way with Bond, but M is also very angry at Bond. He's like, "Why are you killing people in the field? Right? We wanted to question these people, not to have them killed or something, cause an international incident." She's very angry at him. Although she's also very almost nurturing when it comes to Vesper and explaining what happened with her at the end of the film Casino Royale, and then in Quantum of Solace, I mentioned that M has this like there's this really interesting dynamic because M respects Bond, but M is also, as I say, like she is giving an order to essentially kill Bond. I don't know. So that if I were working as a secret agent and M were my boss and M gave an order to kill me, then I probably wouldn't feel like I want to cry when she's dying. I feel bad, but I don't know if I'd cry. Um, but and the same is true here. Like M's order essentially led to the near death of James Bond. I suppose maybe he was, as he, in his own words, enjoying death. So maybe it was his way to escape the world. So, but still, it was a very terrible situation that Bond found himself in. As I say, he fell off the thing, down the waterfall, and boom, blah. So that's all due essentially to M. So I don't see in these opening moments, as an example, the basis for the emotional connection that Bond has towards M. But as I say, I think the clues are in later parts of the film. And in particular, I think a very major clue is in the way that Silva, the Javier Bardem character, how Silva is characterized. But again, just something to think about. And if you have any thoughts about this in the comments section of the live chat, I'd love to hear about it. A last thing about this Bond M dynamic, I should point out that while it's of course Judi Dench playing M in the Pierce Brosnan era of films, uh, I would suggest that it is a very different type of M. I would suggest that the Pierce Brosnan Bond and M dynamic is one that is much more of a friendly rapport. I think that's set forth from the very get go in the very famous scene between M and Bond in GoldenEye. a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War. But uh, you know, um, she has no compunction, right? Or what is it? She won't hesitate to send an agent out to his death. But then in the same breath, she says, "Bond, come back alive." So that's the dynamic that she says outwardly in the Pierce Brosnan era, I would suggest. And there's a very that actually makes the world is not enough situation between M and Bond, I think, very, very powerful. And it's a very strong M story. That's another Emmy story, right? The world is not enough. But I would suggest that the Daniel Craig Bond M relationship is is um, a little bit cooler, maybe to borrow Bond's words from Casino Royale, a little bit prickly. And so again, that's a question that I have about this, but that's really important in my mind to try to answer because that forms the emotional heart and soul of this film, Skyfall. Without that, I think the film doesn't succeed. Now, for me, I do think at the end of the film, it is a very powerful moment, I think. And as I say, I will try to explain why I'm able to make this gap between what I perceive to be this cold relationship between M and Bond. And in fact, Bond should be really angry at M for all the things that M seemingly has done to him. I think the gap can be bridged in a way that I will try to suggest later. But anyway, before I further dominate the conversation, let me now go to the live chat. And let's see. Okay, so here we go. So PH Thallow B Art. Hello, it's nice to see you. Excuse me. Balin the Hobbit, hello. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm so sorry. How rude of me. Sorry. Kubrick Lover 1972 says, why don't you have the film displayed beside you? Um, I hope that's not a rude question because I don't mean it to be. So it's not a rude question at all. The reason why I don't have it is I don't have the film separately. I have the what is it? I have the Blu-ray set, but the Blu-ray set it's in these three black boxes, and I suppose I could show the disc itself, but it's a little bit hard to show. So I don't have it individually. Up to now, I've sometimes showed the DVD individual release that I have of film, but I don't have the individual DVD release of it. So I have the Blu-ray of which is in that collection set. Let's see. Erwin, Skyfall is definitely the best looking Bond. Yes. Um, it looks beautiful, of course. Roger Deakins. So well said. Carl says they didn't watch this film in IMAX. I didn't. Callum says, I think this easily feels like the most raw and brutal Bond movie since License to Kill. I'm so glad you mentioned License to Kill, Callum, because I would suggest too that there are a lot of links between License to Kill and this film. For example, the fight in the casino with the guards, with Severine's bodyguards, those that leads to that wonderful fight in the pit, right? The one Bond and another guard fall into that pit below, and they fight with the. I think Bond fights with that suitcase, the briefcase filled with money. That always reminds me of there's a plot element in License to Kill with a briefcase and money and falling. So I always thought that that was an interesting link. Also, here in Bond's Skyfall's, Q provides him with a Walther a pistol that has a what does he refer to, a signature palm reader, and so so that means that the gun is the gun is programmed so as to be able to fire only when the pre-programmed palm print of the hand that is holding the gun matches, right? So that, of course, is very reminiscent of the signature gun that we saw in License to Kill. Right, this is the property of Her Majesty's government. Where did you get this? We'll talk about License to Kill very soon, my friends. Um, and let's see. Also, it's not License to Kill, but also before I forget, that fight in the pit in the casino when it's the guy and those what are those animals called? I forget the name. But are they like man-eating like lizards or something? I'm not sure, but that always reminded me. It's not James Bond, but do you know the film Return of the Jedi? There's a film called Return of the Jedi, and I don't want to go into spoilers in case you haven't seen Return of the Jedi, but there's a scene, I'll just mention the scene involving a character called Luke Skywalker and a guard um, in, in Jabba's palace and something called the Rancor. But anyway, um, um, this is not. Please pardon me for the indulgence, but before I forget, have you ever done this before? Um, like if you take a little pretzel, you know those little pretzels with this pretzel sticks. I don't recommend doing this. It's probably very dangerous because if you swallow it in the wrong way, it could probably get stuck in your throat. So I don't recommend this. But there are sometimes those pretzel sticks, and whenever they don't have a lot. They don't have those in Japan. But when I was living in, say, the States, I'd sometimes get those pretzel sticks because I like pretzels. And whenever I'd be eating those pretzels, and I think, oh, this reminds me of that scene in Return of the Jedi and Luke Skywalker fighting the Rancor with the bone, remember? And he's like, oh, and he's about, and everyone's like cheering, Yahoo, yeah. And then he's like, oh, and then da da da, and then he puts the bone in, right? And the Rancor's like, his jaw's like, ah. So I always thought that I was the Rancor and Luke Skywalker or something, and Luke Skywalker's fighting me with his pretzel, and then and I'd sometimes put the pretzel into my mouth like that. But of course, I don't recommend that because again, if you swallow it the wrong way, it could get stuck in your throat. So I don't recommend that at all. Don't please do not do what it is I've just done. But anyway, this scene in Skyfall reminds me of Return of the Jedi and also License to Kill. Let's go back to License to Kill. Sorry. So thank you, Callum, for that great moment. Incidentally, I should say also that I don't know if anyone else agrees with me, but there's a moment it's another Timothy Dalton film. It's called The Living Daylights. After after Bond and Kara have gotten off the truck, and they've arrived in Vienna, and the truck driver who gave them a lift, Bond waves to him, and then the truck driver, we don't see his face, but we see his arm stick out of the driver's side window, going like this, like this. So um, that gesture is very reminiscent. I think there's a connection between that and the gesture that Silva gives at the Skyfall residence at the end, the final battle at night, or it's maybe late afternoon, it turns into evening and suddenly becomes dark. But anyway, the Silva gives the order to the helicopter above and goes like this, right? Um, and of course, that's the order to shoot on the Aston Martin. And boom. And then instantly, I don't know, for those of you who saw it in the theater, I don't know what that experiences was like, but when the Aston Martin exploded and then the whole thing goes and we see James Bond's reaction and then the music kicks in, right? And he's angry. He's angry. That got the biggest laugh. I mean, in a great way. People were into it and people were just, oh my goodness, you did the wrong thing there, Silva. But anyway, that gesture that Silva gives always reminds me of the truck driver in The Living Daylights. So anyway, what was I saying? Anyway, sorry. So Callum, thank you so much for that, my dear friend. Yes, it has raw and brutal Bond movie moments. That's for sure. Damful says he's still in disaster movie, but yes, actually, I haven't even begun. Hopefully, something will happen on this channel with that to be continued. Let's see. Yes, Zyrother, credit to Roger Deakins. His cinematography really stands out. It certainly does, Zyrother. I can't stress enough how much I agree with that, and many others as well. The looks, the color palette, the cool blues, and the fiery reds and oranges, the blacks and the whites, the faded grays of London, and the color scheme of the moors at the end, the fog and the richness, the light and shadow, the interiors of Skyfall, the the landscapes of, let's say, Shanghai, and the Macau scenes, um, and the Silva's hideout lair, and yes, all that and so much more. And there is a type of uh, the way that the characters seem to stand out of the frame, and they seem to pop out in a really interesting way. And I actually find that to be very apropos. I'm not an expert in cinematography, but of course there's the great scene between Q and Bond in the museum, and they're talking about, right, the old warships. And I love how they're looking at portraits and paintings, and it reminds me very much of the effectiveness of the cinematography in many of the Bond films. But for example, Roger Deakins, how it's it's about almost it's about there like in my mind, cinematography. There are some very fundamental philosophies of cinematography. The establishment of an image that either has so much depth that you fall into it as a viewer, or the establishment of an image that has so much popping out or so much going on in terms of the way it's framed and lit that it pops out. So it's almost like the philosophy is either one of two things. It's to create an image that pops out at you, or to create an image that you fall into. And I always found that Bond's cinematography, the cinematography of Bond over time, has always been of the former in a great way, the type of stuff that comes out at you. And I always found that in a very subtle way, the conversation between Q and Bond in the museum about warships, the old warships, and of course that, of course, being a type of metaphor for Bond and maybe for MI6 and what M represents, but it's also for Bond as well. That is, I think, in a very subtle way, very emblematic of the cinematography of Bond films and also of this film in particular. But that's a great point, Zyrotha. Yes. Let's see. And um, okay. Alan says, I must admit, to my shame, I've only seen Skyfall once. Um, I loved it and must see it again soon, but having only seen it once, I don't remember it that well. That's okay. Yes, it's I I don't remember a film at all upon initial watch. So you remember more details than I do upon initial watch. So that's not a problem at all, my dear friend. Um, Marzan says, hello, everyone watching worldwide who loves films. Yes. Um, yes, Mike Eli is talking about the box set. And so, yes, yes, I only have Skyfall in the box set. Ryan Chadwick, speaking of Deakins, Deakins is a god among men. Erwin says, I watched it in what was recently chosen as the most beautiful theater in the world. Oh, Chinsky, is that right? Oh, that's great. Uh, uh, Febois or Feboix? Feboix, pardon me for my poor pronunciation. Hello. And yes, Callum Chung says, also the film, I believe, has the final performance of the late Albert Finney. Yes, Albert Kincaid. Kincaid. That was a very surprising moment when it occurred at that part of the film, the final arc, the final sequence of the film involving Bond and M going back to Skyfall, or Bond going back to Skyfall and bringing M. Incidentally, I was talking earlier about the Bond M relationship. There's a moment when they arrive, Bond and M, they arrive at Skyfall and they drive up, and Bond parks the Aston Martin in front. And M says something, I don't know if you caught it, it's like, it says, no wonder you didn't come back here. Uh, um, like, M, what are you doing? Why would you say that? Bond is driving you to what he's perceiving to be this place of temporary safety. He's trying to protect you. And there's this moment, you understand too, that there's this thing about Bond, um, and his childhood, right? And there's this moment when they're on the moors and talking about referring to his childhood and the fact that he was an orphan. And perhaps too, Bond also acknowledges how he never liked this place before, boom, in spectacular fashion, right? The explosion of the premises. But come on, if you're gonna be invited to someone else's house, you don't say, "Oh my goodness, this is," essentially what she said, which is, "Oh, this is a terrible place." You don't say that, Em. But anyway, I think she and Bond, perhaps at that point, maybe had enough of a closeness in their relationship that it was okay from Bond's point of view. But still, like, right? If I were driving M to my house and we parked, oh, here's my house. If M said to me, oh, no wonder you never came back to this place. I would like, M, come on. I'm inviting you to my house. Come on. Just relax. You know, that's what I would say. But anyway. Um, let's see. Okay. Damful says, admittedly, I miss Bond having great cinematography being shot and finished on film. Yeah, yeah. Seth Wall says, spinning around in a circle to take a henchman into the water. Yes, with the lake, the frozen lake. Yes. It's hinted at a little bit when Bond starts to walk on it the first time. There's a little bit of a crack. So that's a good way of setting up, um, what's the oft-used phrase? The um, Chekhov's gun. Let's see. Um, Anonymous Anonymous Fowler says, I don't even like Daniel Craig Bond, but here I am. Oh, thank you so much, my friend. Erwin says, too bad Deakins did only one Bond film thus far. Um, Ryan, yeah, really just knocks his cinematography out of the park. I remember when the film finished in the cinema, his name popped up, and I thought that's why it looks so great. Directors, I forgot Skyfall was filmed. Matthew, it seriously makes the difference. Damples, I'm not into the modern era at all. I still jump into the stream. Thank you. Um, uh, Gosh, why I suddenly your comment, Dample, makes me reminds me of Ghostbusters, for right. Don't cross the streams. I really want to talk about Ghostbusters one of these days. But anyway, um, uh, back off, man. I'm a scientist. All right, let's see. I was actually watching a film with William Atherton the other day. Rewatching it, by the way. It was called The Hindenburg. But let's see. Sorry about that. Okay. Welder says, it's a wonderful thing that you do, Daisuke. Thank you very much, my dear friend. Thank you. Thank you. Really, thank you so much. Damful says, Zyroth or Skyfall was digital. It was somewhere over 2K and shot in 1.78 in matted to scope dimensions. Cooper Glover says, if you go to Roger Deakins' own website, he will respond back to you. I almost 100% positive on that. Really? I didn't know that. Brian Morsi, hello. It's nice to see you, my friend. Gabrielle, let's see, Arredondo. In my opinion, Skyfall is the Dark Knight of the Bond franchise. Both feature an iconic villain and amazing set pieces. Yes, I do recall that this is something that was used to describe the film from its initial release, and I agree with you. I think the parallels between Skyfall and The Dark Knight are very are very appropriate. I think perhaps I don't know. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I don't know if this was acknowledged directly in any of the contemporary film review criticisms that I read of the film at the time, but I think one of the main plot points is, and I don't want to go too much into The Dark Knight, but one of the main plot points of Skyfall that I think is very similar to The Dark Knight is the way that Silva, the character, is introduced and then he is captured, but then capture was part of right. Borrow a phrase from The Dark Knight. It's all part of the plan, and so that was. And that forms part of what Silva's plan was. But thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. That comment, because that actually that comment about the Dark Knight comparison actually brings me to my question about the plot of the film. So let me get into this. Okay, what is the plot of Skyfall? What, or to be more specific, what is Silva's plan in Skyfall? What is his plan? Right, his plan, I think, involves two components that are linked together in a way that, to be perfectly honest, even now that I try to think about it, I'm not quite sure that I fully understand. But okay, so the first thing is this list, the hard drive of what I understand is the list of the what Mallory describes as the NATO agents. Now, I don't remember the exact line of dialogue, so please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if this means some kind of separate mechanism organization of NATO itself that has its own agents, or the agents of the various security tie of each of the member states that form the alliance that is NATO. So I'm not sure what it is, but I assume that it is the latter because I think there's reference made to the British agents, and so. But anyway, I'm not quite sure about that. But in any event, it's some kind of list of secret agents who have cover in some kind of search situation. And so if the list is exposed, then their cover is blown, and it creates this whole set of very significant and serious ramifications. And that's why it is very important to get the list. So here's one question. Did they ever get the list back? I don't think so, right? I don't think they ever got the list back. So the list, we understand, what went into the hands of, I think it was Silva. So what did Silva do with the list? We're not sure. He could have used the list in other means that we are not privy to as viewers of this particular film, Skyfall. That is certainly possible. But I think it's never resolved, right? We just find out he got the list, and it seems like he's using the list and the identity of these agents and revealing a little bit at a time, like 5 people now and then more next week or something, right? To, in a sense, to tease M, to lure M into some kind of trap, or to somehow basically, right? It's not in order to achieve some kind of nefarious means of, say, world domination, or upsetting the geopolitical order or anything like that on a global front, like we would expect from any type of um, uh, megalomaniacal villain of a, let's say, a Blofeld level that we've seen in past Bond films. It doesn't seem that way. It seems like he's using it all as a personal vendetta against M, to basically tarnish M's name and reputation, to make her in trouble with the government and the British government, and to see to it that MI6 as we know it in the film comes to an end, and also to get at M personally. So it seems like he is using the list for his own personal means, it seems to me. So the list becomes almost unimportant in this weird paradoxical way. It would seem like it should be the prime MacGuffin of the film, much like, say, the Solix agitator in, say, The Man with the Golden Gun, or the I don't know, the ATAC or something in For Your Eyes Only, or something like that. So it's the MacGuffin. It doesn't really, it's not of primary importance for us as the viewer, but it is the MacGuffin that is propelling the plot forward, because the characters in the world of the film see it as vital importance to get it back. So, but that's never true with the list, at least in the second half of the film, right? They never say, like, when Bond goes into Mallory, now M's office, Mallory doesn't say, "All right, Bond, time to go to work." Oh, my arm's okay. But it's time to go to work. Let's get that list back or something. Maybe that was in that folder. We're not quite sure what was in that top secret folder, that brief that M gave to Bond at the end before the gun barrel, but I'd like to think it was the mission to retrieve the list. But anyway, the list seems to be of secondary importance, really so. It's not even the prime MacGuffin. So that leads to the question, what was Silva's plan anyway? So he was essentially revealing these names. Incidentally, I think he used, how did he reveal the names, the first set of names of the agents from the list? He made a YouTube video, and he made the YouTube video public, right? And that was teasing or taunting M. And then M looked at the YouTube video, and he said, "Oh, he's made the list public, or made part of the list public." So I don't know, like, and like M's like, "Oh my gosh, what should we do? What should we do?" So I don't know. I thought it would have been like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe M should have called Tanner and asked YouTube to put a copyright strike on Silva's video. I'm sure that would have had YouTube bring down the video immediately. She should have just asked for a copyright strike. But anyway, Silva made the part of the list public on YouTube, and we understand also through other channels or through other public means. And so, but that brings me to the question: what is Silva's plot? So Silva's plot is essentially to get back at M. So he wants to get his revenge for what he perceives to be the wrong that M committed on him when he was an agent in MI6 in the 90s, and he was stationed in Station H, Hong Kong, and he fell under, he was captured by certain antagonistic forces, and then that led to some kind of torture, and that led to the story involving the cyanide capsule in his tooth, and then he bit into it, but it went terribly wrong, and it caused a significant amount of pain and disfigurement. um he should have gone to the, I don't, have you seen, do you know the story Dune? I mean, MI6 should hire the same dentists who do the dental work in the film and the story in the novel Dune, if you know what I'm talking about. But uh, so Silva's dentists, unfortunately, were not the same dentists that were used in Frank Herbert's story Dune. So what that meant was that the tooth thing incident caused a severe disfigurement. It caused him to have, I think, part of his skull uh, destroyed, or something, and so it led to his need to have some kind of implant in his mouth, causing this look of his teeth, which is a very interesting look, right? Uh, and so he perceives this to be this huge wrong or injustice that was committed upon him by M. And so we understand, therefore, that his plot is to assassinate M, or to get back at M, or to destroy her reputation. It's not quite clear. If his plot was to assassinate M, my question is, why would he take all these elaborate means to try to do this? Why would he set up this thing of, right? Well, Q says he's been planning this for years to get captured in order to get released. Why? Why? I don't understand that. If he wanted to get at M, why doesn't he just say, like one night, he comes back, right? Because he's assumed to be dead because of what happened to him, and his name is on the memorial wall of MI6, as M indicated, and he's like, if Raul Silva really wanted to get back at M, all he had to do is essentially just come back one night into M's apartment and say, "Hello, I'm back," and then just take care of it, right? No fuss, no need to set up the whole thing with the computer and plan it years in advance. I'm gonna get captured only to get released, and I'm gonna have someone give me a. I'm gonna have it timed perfectly. Someone's gonna give me a police uniform to wear or something, and have this whole setup or something. Why set it up when all he had to do was do essentially what Bond did at the beginning of the film, right? He came back after he heard about the attack on MI6, the explosion. He came back and he broke into M's apartment. Silva could have done the same thing that Bond did. And then he could have used that as the opportunity, because I'm sure M would have maybe had her guard down. Like, oh my goodness, Silva, you're alive. What? And then, right? And then Silva could have done it. But no, no, no. It had to be this huge plot to get back at M. Now, if the plot of the hard drive was somehow the main MacGuffin, then I could probably see a plot being fashioned where M and Silva's relationship is maybe the secondary MacGuffin, and the primary MacGuffin is the hard drive. But no, the hard drive is the secondary. It's not even the secondary one. It disappears halfway through the film. So it's all about Silva and M. And as I say, if that's the case, then why go through all these machinations and contortions, really, and these plans just to want to kill M? If you wanted to do it, like like he should have just done what he does at the end, right? When he attacks Skype, he's just going in there and attacking her. So he should have done that, I think, without necessarily having to establish all this setup. Now, maybe he needed to break into MI6. Maybe there was some kind of secret data or files or confidential information or something that he wanted to steal. If that's the case, I can understand that, but it wasn't clear to me in terms of what I was trying to get from the dialogue or anything. So it's all essentially just to get at M. So if that's the case, I mean, right, I know that James Bond villains are expert in the over planning department. It's I've mentioned Star Wars here, but it's the whole idea of over planning becomes your weakness, and right, that's the idea of the Death Star plan. And I think Star Wars, not well, James Bond villains. I mean, there are Star Wars crossovers, of course, like Christatos and everything, but the right. he thought surprise was wiser. But anyway, the yes, James Bond villains have this great skill at over planning and over preparing. That's for sure. To the point where the over planning reveals something about their weakness that Bond is able to exploit. And I think that's part of the charm and fun and entertainment value of these films is how the over planning is the downfall of the villains, and that it becomes the comeuppance of the villain. I don't. I mean, I see Silva as being like it's not just over planning. It's like this is like I would have loved to have been in that room in the planning stage, right? The high level planning stage when Silva's in the room. Okay, all right, my friends, I want to assassinate M. How how can I do it? Do you have any ideas? You know, the pitch meeting or something, or and you have 4 or 5 people there, and maybe someone raises, okay, you, uh, uh, you, Mr. Smith, what do you think? So Mr. Smith says, Mr. Silva, I think maybe a good way to do it is if you pretend to come back from the dead and one night break into M's apartment and catch her off guard, and maybe as she is trying to brief you and as she's trying to console you, or maybe she is under some kind of emotional pressure, then you can attack. What do you think, Mr. Silva? And Silva's thinking, it's like, yes, I think that's a good idea, but no, I'd rather spend a lot of years and a lot of computer technology and a huge elaborate setup involving James Bond and a radio and him capturing me so that I can break out. And I'd like to be able to have that. Can you think of a plan that involves that? Is anyone? And then, oh, how about trying to get her, trying to maybe dress up? Oh, that's a good idea. I like the idea of dressing up. Maybe last Halloween I dressed up as a police officer. Maybe can we figure out something like that? So, and then maybe that was how the pitch meeting developed into what ended up being Silva's plan at the end. If that's the case, then I don't and maybe we should have some helicopters. I'd like to have some helicopters just in case the plan fails. Does anyone have any ideas? And Mr. Silva. Oh yes, Mr. Smith. Maybe we should have a couple helicopters and some extra men. So just in case the plan fails, we can have a plan B. What would that plan B be, by the way? What would that plan B be? Oh, I like that. Maybe the plan B would be to try to follow where M is going using some kind of clandestine secret tracking device, and then we can go there. Oh, great, great. Uh, if we have helicopters, do you think we can play music? Oh, that's a good idea. What, Mr. Smith? Do you have any suggestions? I like that song, right? Was it Boom Boom? Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Okay, so let's have music on the helicopters and let's do that, and hopefully we don't have to rely on Plan B. But let's have this great Plan A and Plan B. Thank you very much for the earlier idea about I can break in, but I don't like that. I'd rather do something else. So that's probably how the pitch meeting went for Silva. So that's my way of saying that I really think it's a case of real over planning, unnecessarily over planning. But perhaps then if anyone wants to debate that, then someone says, okay, right, on the other side of the coin, I can certainly say, well, Daisuke, wouldn't you say creating this huge layer out of a volcano somewhere in Japan, wouldn't you call that a case of over planning? And you'd have a point, right? So anyway, um, but my point is, I still am not quite sure what the plot is. However, and I'll end here and I'll go back to the chat, I promise. However, I do think that it has to do with the psychological complexity that is Silva's character, because we realize actually by the end of the film, in that little chapel part, right, separate from Skyfall, separated by the frozen lake, we understand that, and then the grave of the parents of Bond, we understand that it's not just that Silva wants to kill M, but he also has this mission, I think, of referring to her, or not mission, but he refers to her as mother, and also he is also saying, let us die together in this very chilling, almost a pact, if you will, which is very, very chilling. But that is suggestive of the fact that he seems to be psychologically, anyway, suggesting that he sees his fate as being intertwined with M, and so and he sees her as a type of mother figure, and so that probably means that he's not just invested in trying to assassinate this particular person, but he's also trying perhaps to antagonize. And if that's the case, then I can understand what his whole setup was in terms of using the names in order, in essence, to antagonize M, to make M's life very uncomfortable indeed. So, and if that's the case, I think he succeeded. So, and it also leads to a great insight into Bond and M's relationship, which is what I was referring to at the start of this discussion. But before I get into that, and at risk of further monopolizing the conversation, which I apologize for greatly, let me now go back to the live chat. Thank you very much, Gabrielle, for that great comment. Yes. Um, you said The Dark Knight. I love, there's my favorite moment in The Dark Knight, right? It's very famous. And here we go. So, Richard, hello, Richard. Hello, it's nice to see you. I hope you're well, my friend. Wolfgratz, our dear friend. Let's see. All right, so I'm just scrolling down here. There's talking. I'm at the Roger Deakins website section of the chat. Damn fool talks about Earl Grey. Tea Earl Grey hot. Gabrielle. The heroes' respective love interests. Severine and Rachel both die in the movies too. Yes, that's an interesting point about Severine. I don't know if I would go so far as to create a parallel between the character of Rachel in The Dark Knight and the character of Severine in Skyfall. I would suggest perhaps that the emotional relationship between Bruce Wayne and Rachel is in fact much more, it's much stronger because they know each other for a longer period of time in that film than in this film. But I understand what you're saying. Severine as a character is a very fascinating one. I love the performance. I love how she uses the smile, her smile, in order to show, right? She's smiling when she's talking with Bond, if you notice, and that smile is very menacing and it's very chilling. But at the same time, when Bond is able to identify aspects of what he guesses is her background, then her smile becomes that of a very it becomes a very sensitive one, and it displays a different range of emotions than her initial set of smiles at the start of that scene. So I think that was a really very powerful moment. There's one of my film professors back in the day. She was very much into the notion of the depiction of the smile in cinema, and there are so many famous depictions of smiles in cinema, so many famous iconic scenes like City Lights, Charles Chaplin, or even Once Upon a Time in the West. Almost all the main characters there have a big close-up where they're smiling, and that's hugely important in my opinion. But there's that, and there are many others, many others, too many to mention here. But I would say also that Severine's smile, her smiling in this film, in that particular scene in the Macau uh, 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 casino scene, is part of the reason why the smile is so powerful in cinema, because it can show so much with so little, and yet you understand exactly what's going on as a viewer. So and that's very interesting. I should just mention before I move on, the character Severine is a very it's a very interesting one. There's, of course, I think the criticism was made about Bond as a character and how it could be perceived or interpreted that Bond maybe is taking advantage of Severine, but due to her own background, which Bond seems to understand as being part of the what is it, the sex slave trade. So it's a very serious, very serious matter that is being brought up, and at the same time, Bond takes it upon himself to right, to seduce her on the ship. But I it's that's a tough call for me, and I mean it's, how should I put it? it feels like there is something of a mutual attraction between the two characters. So right, Severine does invite him to the ship, and we do see Severine, and she has prepared the champagne with two glasses. So there is that aspect. But as I say, I know that criticism, and I don't not understand it, if you know what I mean. Um, but I actually find her character to be also very fascinating. Incidentally, the whole thing with Shanghai, and there's a thing with Patrice being hired to carry out the assassination from across the building. That's another case of really like perplexing over preparedness. If you wanted to assassinate that guy, why didn't you just have one of the henchmen do it in the room? Why did you have to have the setup of the glass breaking and going into the separate building and the whole thing shooting the guard going there? Why? I mean, it's very obvious, and it draws more attention to the fact that someone's been killed because you have more people being killed. Why did Severin just have one of the bodyguards do? I don't know, but anyway, of course, I understand it's important because it leads to that great fight in the glass, and people mention Roger Deakins, but the light and the the, the reflections on and the darkness and shadow with the neon and Patrice and the whole thing with the casino chip and everything. So I understand that. Incidentally, this does the whole Severine uh, character arc and the ship and her character as well as being someone who's very afraid of Silva, and this idea of her being almost a captive. Not almost, she is a captive. This is very much like the relationship between Xanders and Scaramanga in The Man with the Golden Gun, very much so. And in fact, I think a similar type of criticism could be made against Bond's character and how he treats Miss Anders in that film, which is not unlike the type of criticism that one could have against the Bond character and how he treats Severine in this film as well. So I think but it's always been there. I think so, but. Um, and even the visual cues, the ships, the barges, and the like. Although there's a lot of standing in this film Skyfall, this is probably, if you notice that there's so many scenes where Bond and Severine too, but Bond is, he's just standing there in his like James Bond. What, I don't know what you call it. It's, those in the United States they have those GI Joe action figures, and if you pose them in the correct way, they can stand on their own. He always reminds me of that those poses that he has. Daniel Craig's Bond here, he's standing on the boat as they're going to the island, or he's standing on the ship as he's entering into the casino, or he's standing on the moors just before they go to Skyfall, or he's standing on the roof at the end after M dies and he's going back to London. He's just standing. He's doing a lot of standing poses. This is a very standing pose Bond film. This is probably. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone knows the answer, is this the film where we have the most shots of Bond standing pose? Um, I can't think of any else. Were there any other ones where he's just standing there like that, just looking, you know, like that, or maybe it's from the side, like when he and M are just looking like this. I love how right. So that's right. There's a lot of that here. So anyway, so this is Skyfall. Did he do that in any other of his Bond films? By the way, Daniel Craig. I'm not sure, but anyway, if anyone has the answer to that, please let me know. All right, where was I? Oh yes. But Gabriel, thank you so much for that. Goodbye, Steed. Hello. Yes, right off the bat, no gun barrel in the beginning of the film. Yes, just how many times Bond has to be rebooted to earn himself a gun barrel in the opening. Yes, this brings me to my next point. Thank you very much, Goodbye Steed, which is the idea that right, Bond is not Bond until the end of Casino Royale when the David Arnold music kicks in, right, the name is Bond, James Bond, which is in fact reprised in this film when you get the reveal of the Aston Martin. So, but in other words, Bond is not Bond until he is Bond at the end of Casino Royale, right? The name is Bond, James Bond. But then when you go to Quantum of Solace, I think he's not Bond. He's still not Bond. he was Bond at the end of Casino Royale, but minutes later at the start of Quantum of Solace, he's not Bond until he becomes Bond at the end of Quantum of Solace, and he throws away the whole necklace, and then he walks off. So he's Bond, and then he's not Bond, and then at the start of Skyfall, he's already Bond, but he's an old Bond, and he's an antiquated Bond, but he's not quite Bond yet. And he's being rebooted or something. So actually, I'm in the same sort of morass of confusion as you, because I'm not quite sure what the trajectory is. It's it's like if you're going to establish Bond, like it's weird to me that Bond is just becoming the secret agent James Bond 007, say at the end of Quantum of Solace. Let's accept that. But then the start of Skyfall, we're supposed to expect that he is already considered to be an antiquated old hat type of thing of a bygone era, I think, which I don't quite get. He was just Bond, but then he's now antiquated. I'm not sure about that. And you get all these little asides from Mallory, why don't you just quit while you're ahead? Or Q, we don't go in for that anymore. Exploding pens, we don't go for that. But actually, they do, actually, right? If, it's not a pen, but it's a watch in Spectre, I think, or something. But we'll talk about it. But so it's like Q is very he's almost contradicting himself, but it's almost like a Back to the Future moment. I always like to think if Q had the DeLorean from the Back to the Future films, I'd like to think that maybe Q would have gotten in a later time period, gone back in time to this museum and said, "Don't say that thing about the exploding pen. Actually, I'm right now making an exploding pen for Bond as we speak, so don't say that." But so there's that little aside by Q, which suggests that Bond is already an old warship or something. It's either Bond and or M, and that they should basically uh, uh, just pack it in and call it a day and retire with dignity. So that leap was something I never quite understood. I understand it because the film is right. What was it? The 50th anniversary from 1962's Doctor No. So there was a lot of this idea too in the marketing about how this was an establishment of something that is a tried and true uh, series of films. So there's the tradition that is already inlaid inherently into the marketing itself by virtue of the fact that this is the 50th anniversary. I get that, but what is it? Is it a mark of tradition, or is Bond someone who has just been established as being this agent? But now he's old, and now he's got the Aston Martin. Now he's got so. I must admit that this is a part of Skyfall that always has me. What's the phrase? To borrow a phrase from, I don't know if anyone is a runner here, but it catches me flat-footed, and so I always am confused. I'm trying to figure out exactly what the perspective on Bond is. I find it to be a myriad of things, but that's okay. I'm okay. I'm able to keep um, what is it? To hold two seemingly contradictory concepts in my mind, and then still maintain the perspective on it. Right. To heavily paraphrase from a quote from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is claimed to be accredited to Scott Fitzgerald, but I don't. That's another story in and of itself. But anyway, um, uh, so yes, so the perspective here about is Bond old hat, new hat? Is he a new, fresh agent, or is he now much older, or something like that? That is all unclear to me. But that's okay. That's okay. I can get that. I get that too because again, we're not just talking about Bond, the character and the story of Skyfall, but we're talking about the legacy of Bond in the cinematic run of films. So, all right. Um, yeah. And of course, it does lay the groundwork for the further continuation of the so-called reboot and the establishment of these things that we understand: M's office, Moneypenny, the door. Although the door, I always thought there was a double door. It wasn't a single door, but maybe it depends on the set in the film. But and then Tanner, of course. Incidentally, Mallory became promoted to be the new M. We understand, I always thought it should have been Tanner, to be perfectly honest. I thought Tanner could have been a good M, or T. It would have been maybe T, but maybe perhaps Tanner wasn't chosen for the job that M ended up getting, because if T would be the new code word for the head of MI6, then maybe people would have gotten confused. Here, get me T. What? T. What? Huh? T. Earl Grey tea? What? Tea? No, T. So maybe that was the reason why. Someone mentioned, I think Damfool mentioned Earl Grey tea in reference to Q earlier, but maybe if Q had been, if Tanner had become head of MI6 and he became T, and Q came into the office, I need my Earl Grey tea. Huh? What? You remember that scene? What was it? Roger, Roger, what's our Victor from the film Airplane? So, huh? What? Who? So, but anyway, thank goodness Mallory became M at the end, because that's another great character arc, the character of Mallory. But before I get into that and the other characters, Moneypenny and Silva, and then that relationship between Bond and M, and also the climactic battle in Skyfall. Let me now go to the live chat. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, Damful says, never understood why Bond in the novels hates T so much. Callum says, I like the new version of Q despite the fact that he can't ever live up to Desmond Llewellyn. Richard says, Deakins is the only reason to praise this otherwise subpar entry in the Bond franchise, in my humble opinion. Seth Waltz, deformed villain, silhouette fight scene, double barrel shotgun action, Moneypenny introduction, new Q and M, beautiful Severine, monitor lizard, casino on water, scorpion liquor shots, all amazing. Yes. That scorpion liquor scene, was that real? Like, the way it was shot, like, it cut immediately to Bond on the alone on the bar. So the assumption being that it was the night before and he was the center of the festivities and everyone was just praising him, and that was the whole thing. It reminds me also of the character of Marion in the film Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love that scene with the guy she's fighting against in the drink off, and I love that scene. But anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, so the Bond, but that's actually very dangerous. And if if a scorpion was on my hand and I was trying to drink and it stung me, I think I could be seriously injured, I would think. But maybe that's having to do with Bond's outlook on life. But it seems totally unnecessary. And also, if we're thinking back, I mentioned that this is the 50th anniversary of Doctor No. I don't know if that was meant to be a sly, subtle reference to the spider or tarantula scene in Doctor No. But Bond in that film had a much different reaction to this type of insect on his body than Bond in this film with this particular insect. But oh well. Anyway, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with the computer graphic of it's. I think it's very clearly a computer image that's on Daniel Craig's hand, but that's okay. I mean, there was also very cool trick photography that was used with Doctor No and the glass, as we know. Um, did I ever do my Doctor No Sean Connery? The tarantula is on my shoulder face impression. I don't know. I'm not really good with my impersonations, but here's my Sean Connery. This is my Sean Connery James Bond. Oh no, I've realized that there's a tarantula on my arm impression. Here we go. Okay, so that's my yes. Okay, okay. Anyway, um, let's see. And he handles it with much more grace and dignity than I could ever could. If I saw a tarantula, if I woke up and I found a tarantula walking on my arm, I think I would, it would totally panic. But anyway, um, but if I was able to get it off and get a slipper, I would certainly try to do what he did and try to hit it on cue with the music, right? Anyway, so going back to the. Um, but Seth, great comment. Thank you so much. Damful, the missing gun barrel is a major point of contention for me. Yes, as I think for a number of people as well. Um, Jared says, I remember seeing this film for the first time and enjoying it quite a bit, and then enjoying it more as I kept watching it. Zyroth, the gun barrel is at the end, though. Richard Marzan, to be honest, Skyfall and all the films after Casino Royale don't really appeal to me like their predecessors. I think they have sort of morphed into Jason Bourne, and when I want that, I watch that. Callum, there's definitely kind of a mother-son relationship between M and Bond. Thank you. Yeah. Wolfgratz, personally, I dislike Earl Grey a lot. Each to their own. Yeah. Um, like if Q had said, I can do more in my pajamas, um, before drinking my first cup of Lucozade. If he had said Lucozade, I'd been, oh yes, because I've mentioned before, I love Lucozade. But I don't, do people drink Lucozade in the morning? Probably not. I think it's a soft drink, I think. But anyway, if he had said Lucozade, that would have been great. And also, speaking of lines I wish characters in Skyfall said, do you remember that scene in Skyfall when Bond and Kincaid, the Albert Finney character, um, they're at the window, and I think they're getting ready for the first attack by Silva's men, and they're standing there, it's all quiet, and they're at the window. And Bond says, um, um, uh, are you ready? He says that to Confucius, are you ready? That immediately made me think of, the film Big Trouble in Little China. Um, and I don't know if you know this film, but when Bond said, "Are you ready?" Kincaid, right? Are you ready? I would have loved it if Kincaid had said, "I was born ready," but he didn't. He said something very similar. He said, "I was ready before you were born." So it's similar. It's not quite the same, but if he had said, "I was born ready," that would have been, oh my goodness, that would have been so cool. But anyway, oh well. Let's see. So Kincaid, what a character, huh? What a character. I know there was talk about how, oh, it should have been Sean Connery, and I don't think there's any way that Sean Connery would have come back to another Eon James Bond film. But anyway, the it would have been interesting had it been Sean Connery. But Alfred Finney, I think, was a fine choice. He had this this I love to use this phrase, this sense of a lived in life quality about his persona there, because he brought so much. It wasn't just Kincaid, it was Albert Finney. And there's so much of a legacy that he was bringing. And also, if anyone is interested, there is there is, of course, an Albert Finney Sean Connery connection made in cinema with Sidney Lumet in the film Murder on the Orient Express, um, which is one of my favorite films, by the way. Um, uh, Again, I promised I wouldn't talk about films other than Skyfall, but please, you must forgive me. Here's a quote from Murder on the Orient Express, between a scene between Albert Finney, who plays Hercule Poirot in that film, and Sean Connery, who plays a character called Colonel Arbuthnot. What a name that is, right? Colonel Arbuthnot. So, and he's asking, Albert Poirot's asking, or Colonel Arbuthnot, some questions about one of the passengers, and he says, I know I ask it, and that's a damn irregular question. Miss Debenham is not a woman; she's a lady. Anyone who knows Murder on the Orient Express, I hope you can get that reference. But anyway, if not, I apologize. Don't worry, it doesn't spoil the film. Anyway, let's see. Okay. Gabrielle says it was the first and only Bond film to crack $1 billion at the box office. Yeah, and then Dan Folsey said that the arty attempt at the gun barrel opening. um, Seth Walsh, how about Bond's face whilst riding motorcycle on the rooftops? Yes. Um, Kubrick lover, I recall not liking the end of the film when I first saw it in the theater, with its MacGyver ending. Or some people make reference to, like, I don't know, like, what is it? I think people make reference to films like Straw Dogs, but I actually thought of it more like, do you know the film Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, with Heather Langenkamp, who plays a character called Nancy, and there's a scene which is very similar. Right, she says to the Johnny Depp character, "I'm into survival." Well, that's like, it's almost like when I saw the preparations the first time in the film, the first thing that popped into my mind was like, this is like Johnny Depp and Heather Langenkamp. Um, Daniel Craig and Judi Dench are like Johnny Depp and Heather Langenkamp in this film, and they're doing the preparations. Well, actually, in Nightmare on Elm Street, it was actually just Nancy who was doing the preparations, but you know what I mean. And then also the film Home Alone. There's something very much of a Home Alone type. That I saw Home Alone in the theater, and Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, by the way. But there's a Home Alone aspect to that as well. But also, I think the main comparison was made to Straw Dogs, I think, if I recall correctly. It's an interesting ending, by the way. But before I get into that, I'll move to the comments here. Let's see, just scrolling down. Sorry for skipping over a number of comments, but Rider rated 18. It's crazy that this film is almost 10 years old. Yes, yes, time certainly flies. Wolfgratz, this was only my second watch. It did crack me up that they essentially lifted the knock list from Mission Impossible. Oh, that's a good point. Yes, Mission Impossible. By the way, I love Mission Impossible. The first one, uh, red light, green light. Um, Hasta lasagna, don't get any on you, right? I love that. Um, I saw that one in the theater too. It's great. Although the trailer, I hated the trailer for Mission Impossible the first because it essentially showed the ending of the film. I hate it when trailers show the ending. That's why I don't watch trailers anymore because they show too much. Yeah. Let's see. Uh, so Rother says, "Wow, over 50 people here might be the largest audience for a Bond live stream so far." Is that true? Oh, great, thank you. 50 people. Let me see. What is it? 51. What is it? 50. Oh, 51 and 51 likes and one dislike. That's good. That's a good ratio. Thank you. Um, Thumbs down is totally okay. If you don't like it, you can thumbs down. No problem. No problem. I can take the criticism. And not a problem at all. Let's see. Where was I? SF. Skyfall. Okay, Skyfall. That's right. Actually, by the way, Damful and others. You know how people tend to. Did I ask this before? You know how people say the world is not enough is was it Twine or the spy who loved me? What? Or you only live twice. Is the old? Is Skyfall? Is it s or is it s? Which is it, right? Because it's one word, right? So it should be S, right? But if that's the case, then how do you? Did you see that film? What? Which one is it? Spectre? Sky? Which one? Which one? But so I understand probably that confusion. So if that's the case, is Spectre sp and Skyfall sf? But anyway, sorry. So sf is the film that had the most polish had more polish and a much bigger launch, which resulted in major box office in response. As a Bondian, I had major issues with it, lifting elements of outside films and plot issues. Yeah, callbacks drove me nuts. They're all over the place. Yeah, I love it when they pull in the other MI6 agent staff. Almost as much as I like it when just Bond runs in. I don't know. Like I had the biggest groan reaction when it was Tanner drinking his Heineken. That was like right. There's Bond drinking the Heineken in bed, and then there's the scene right in where there's like, we've got to make sure that Silva is gonna track, and Tanner's sitting there. He's first of all he's standing in front of Q, not behind him. So it's almost like can Q see the entire screen? Isn't Tanner blocking? But anyway, and also Tanner's drinking the Heineken. But anyway, but oh well. Um, so right, so there was some product place. I guess there's product placement in all Bond films, like Omega Watch, or right as they say it, Omega. Um, right. Although I always like to say that you know anyone who knows Doctor Who, the Omega. But anyway, um, let's see. Uh, Gabrielle says, not Skyfall related, but looking back, it's kind of funny to see that Austin Powers Goldmember predicted that the brothers plot line in Spectre. We'll talk about Spectre at a later live stream. Yeah, Spectre. Ugh. Okay. Seth Walsh says, for your eyes only. Yes. For your eyes only. I think he says it one, but he says for your eyes only or for her eyes only or something. But he does say that. Yes. Um, uh, let's see. Goodbye, Steve. Careless rewriting of the character Moneypenny as a field agent never sits well with me. A huge betrayal. What's next? Bond and Blofeld are brothers. Oh wait. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Um, um, yeah. Spectre. We'll talk about Spectre very soon. Hopefully, if it's okay, I'd like to talk about a non-Daniel Craig film for the next live stream. But if you decide Spectre, I'm fine with that. But anyway, let's see. Scrolling down here, I'm sorry. Yeah, damn fool. That's a good point. Penny being an agent was the original idea backstory developed by young Maxwell and Connery on set. Yes, so this is a reference to the idea of what is the characterization of Moneypenny and her relationship with James Bond and Doctor No when we meet them for the first time. So there is this idea of there being a kind of backstory, whatever it is, that leads us to where they are at the start of Doctor No when you first meet them. So it isn't completely out of the realm of possibility, but still really interesting stuff. And I can understand your comment. Goodbye, Steve. That's for sure. Scolder22 is here. Hello. It's nice to see you. And Callum says he's kind of a more modern version of Dalton, arguably a more refined, but just as brutal version of Bond. So you're talking about Daniel Craig's James Bond performance. I love Timothy Dalton's performance, by the way. I think he's got that edge of debonair and sarcastic wit and sensitivity and showing moments where he's not confident, but also showing the cool confidence that he needs because he knows what's going on. And oh my goodness, if Timothy Dalton had been in this, um, uh, you know, if Timothy Dalton had been in this, it would have. Oh goodness, that would have been so great, right? Can you imagine Timothy Dalton's James Bond at that end scene when he's with Gareth Mallory, M at the end? So 007, ready to get back to work, and Timothy Dalton. I would have loved to have seen him say, "Yes, with pleasure, M. I'm gonna take my gun and bam, 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 all over the place, bam, bam. That's what Bond does, bam. That's what. Oh, that would have been so cool. But anyway, um, so that's yeah. Uh, uh, with the hair, it would have been cool, like Timothy Dalton hair. Ah, so cool. But anyway, let's see. Where was I? Sorry, scrolling down here. I'm skipping a number of comments. I apologize. Harry Butler, hello. Wow. Super chat. Wow, thank you. Thank you for all you do, Daisuke. I have just started my film journey, and it's been an absolute pleasure using you as a guide during that journey. Please keep doing that amazing work that you do. Thank you. Much love from Australia. Wow. I am so honored. Thank you so much, my friend, for this. Thank you. That is very kind of you. Hold on. Let me now skip down and say, oh, hi. Ohayo. Sorry, my son is here. Ohayo. ごめんね。もうちょっと、あと、なんだろう。あと30分で終わるかも。いい Is that okay? Is that okay? Do you want to join me? What do you want to do? You shy? You don't have to. No? Do you want to play something? Okay. You want me to help you or you want to get it? Oh, I know. You want that one, right? Yeah. This one? Pew pew, that one? Which one? Give me a hint.
Your iPhone.
My iPhone? You want to play on my iPhone? Oh gosh. My iPhone is right now on the tripod here, so I don't know if I can get it off in time. Let's see. Do you want to try? Maybe there might be something. Sorry, hold on for 1 second. There might be something. Hold on. Let's see here. Let me just. Excuse me here for 1 second, please. I'll be right back. Do you want to? Let's see. Are you hungry yet, or you're not? Okay. All right. Maybe we can do. How about that one? You want to bring? You want to play Pikmin here? Splatoon. All right. Just wait here. I'll bring it. Here, come on. This one's nice. Here you go, buddy. sorry about that. I'm almost done here, but you don't have to stay in your view. You can, and then you can sit here, you can sit there, anywhere you want, all right? And then if you want help with this, just let me know. But you're much better at this than I am. So okay? All right? You got it, buddy? Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. You got to show me. I don't know how to clear that stage. You know how to do this better than I do, so you got to help me out next time with that, okay? You okay? All right. You hungry? Do you want something to drink? You're still okay. You okay? All right, all right. I'm gonna be finished soon. All right, just hold on, okay? If you need anything, just let me know, okay? Give me 5. Thanks. All right, thank you. Okay. All right, let's see. Sorry about that. So where was I? Let's see. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you very much for the for that. So, where was I? Do you need some light? Do you need some light? Oh, sorry, but just give me 1 second. Do you need some light? Here. That's better, right? You okay? All right. Okay. Sorry, it's a little bit darker here, but I just wanted to give more light to my son there. So anyway, where was I? Where was I? So okay, sorry about that. I'm skipping through a lot of the comments here. Let me just go. Sorry if I skipped over it. I'm very sorry here. But going back to the live chat, Kevin O'Connell, hello. You say I drink Lucozade all day long. um, yeah, yeah. So I'm just skipping over here a lot of them. Talking about the film Paddington. Yes, Damful's talking about Sam Mendes as a choice for the director. Let's see. Yeah, talking about the Paddington films. Damful, thank you very much. Trial by 12 Good Men and True is a sound system. Thank you very much for getting the reference. Thank you. Let's see here. Sorry, scrolling down here. Cooper Glover's talking about the comparison I made between Nightmare on Elm Street and Skyfall. Adam saying the only Bond not shot on film. Yes, Bry Guy 562 talking about the ending of Mission Impossible. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, that's a good point. The ending of Mission Impossible is the only part with trailer worthy action, though. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Although it is, it's like, yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's a good point. Mikey Eli says I immediately thought of Home Alone, but I really like the Nightmare on Elm Street comparison. Milk, milk, gross. Oh, Nightmare on Elm. Are we gonna do Nightmare on Elm Street references here too? I'm so sorry. You brought it up, so I have to say what can I say in to compare that? Let's see, milk, gross. There's also well, gosh, why can't I say? I'm into survival. See ya, see ya. Or let's see. Uh, I guess I just slept heavy or something like that. I'm sorry. This is not a Nightmare on Elm Street live stream. I apologize. But maybe I should talk about Nightmare on Elm Street one of these days. Look, all I meant was that their fights weren't that serious. Yeah. Oh, and then my favorite line from Nightmare on Elm Street. Sorry, that reminds me. Kitty, kitty, chow, chow, chow. Yes. And then you also mentioned milk, gross. That also reminds me of that famous milk advert, TV advert. Milk. Ugh, it's what Ian Rush drinks. Let's see. Um, Erwin says, I mostly got a real Straw Dogs vibe because it's set in the British countryside. Um, Kevin O'Connell says, anyone who thumbs down is a part of the modern day Spectre YouTube corporate. Um, uh, as I said, all that M needed to do when Silva posted that YouTube video of the agents was to just ask YouTube for a copyright strike. They would have brought it down immediately. Let's see. Yeah, Damful says we're talking about Mission Impossible. Okay, yeah. Wolfgratz, to be honest, I used to see Mendes as a director of musical revivals, but I liked his second Shakespeare history for the BBC. Yes. Cooper Glover, 1972 says Connery's Bond dies at the start of You Only Live Twice, just like this film. That's a good point, but of course that film involved what I think was a setup, a purposeful setup to create the ruse or the story that Bond was dead in the eyes of the public and the media, in order to give him more cover for his clandestine operations. Here in Skyfall, he really fell. Now I still don't know how he survived that fall. I mean, that's that's almost I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I really can't say, but it seems almost impossible that he would have been able to survive. And even the opening credits with the Adele's Skyfall, it's suggestive that he wasn't lifted up, but he was pulled down into the sand at the bottom. So it was like it's suggesting that he drowned, which is a very frightening premise. But there's no uh, nothing to suggest to tell us how he survived. He just shows up one day um, somewhere, and then he's in bed drinking Heineken. So I'm not sure how he was able to survive. I suppose because right. I guess you know. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Let's see. Um, Bry Guy 562 you ticked the dice gay tickled. um, Let's see. And you say figuratively speaking, as you follow up Cooper Glover. So I agree with you. Yes, yes, of course. I should have waited until I saw your secondary comment there. Yeah, we're on the same page, obviously. Um, let's see. I do want to say too about the. I do want to say about. Well, let's talk about the two sets. There's two other main topics I want to talk about before I'm able to finish. But so the first set is, let's talk about the ending, or the whole setup with Skyfall and the attack on Skyfall, what Skyfall means, what it represents, and how that can lead into what I try to identify as being the basis for the emotional relationship bond between Bond and M. What is the bond between Bond and M? So the let's see. Um, the attack on Skyfall, I I don't know how I sorry, just hold me for 1 second. You okay there? Oh, hold on, just give me 1 second. Sorry about this, my friends. ごめんね。ちょっとこれやってみよう。これちょっとさ、もうちょっとごめんね。ありがとう。ごめんね。どう？楽しい？ Let's see. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So the attack on Skyfall, and this is a kind of it's a very interesting aspect, because I don't think we've seen this type of fight before, this type of climax or close to a film before. So it's very interesting. It has this rugged feel to it. It's very earthy, obviously, the earth tone, the fog, the darkness, the whole thing of being alone in an isolated setting, just with what is available, which is not much. and this overwhelming force that is going to attack at any given moment. So you just have to wait and prepare in the quiet and the solitude. And it's also a link to Bond's past, his childhood, the whole thing with the secret tunnel, and how Kincaid reveals that when he told Bond as a boy when about the death of his parents, he hid there for 2 days, and so it seems to be a type of psychological connection. Bond himself indicates before it explodes that he always hated this place. That explosion, by the way, I mean it's really quite spectacular. It's pretty much it's like I don't know, like Casino Royale mansion explosion spectacular, or even like For Your Eyes Only ship dock explosion spectacular. I mean, it's really quite spectacular in terms of the pyrotechnics involved in the production process. But so this attack. So how do I feel about this sequence? I usually go back and forth. To be perfectly honest, I tend to. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I like what. That's an interesting choice. So what do I mean? So the first thing is like. Maybe I'm paying too much. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too picky. But for example, am I correct in remembering that when Bond arrives, Bond and M arrive and they see Kincaid and they see all the thing, it's pretty much almost empty. And that's due to the fact, as Kincaid reveals, that they sold the property when they found out, or when they heard that Bond was dead. Is that right? So if I remember correct, therefore Kincaid is revealing that the property actually no longer belongs to Bond. It no longer belongs to him. It actually was sold to some other seller, whoever that seller was. Was it a company? Was it a person? I'm not sure. An individual? It could be a whole range of things. But in any event, it was sold. So they're in fact on property that is, officially speaking, I think, I haven't seen the real estate contracts, but I would assume that it's no longer theirs, or there is a claim of colorable title. Or was it phrase? A colorable claim of title? I always forget the legal lingo. But in other words, there is a claim that could be made by a third party as to the ownership rights in and to the property that is Skyfall and the land, etc. So I'm not sure as to the legality of their presence on the estate, and not just that, they actually cause a significant amount of damage. Although if it was ever brought to a court of law, that I'm sure Bond and company could say it wasn't our fault, it was brought about due to circumstances that were beyond our control. It's called, I think, force majeure, although I don't think the force majeure concept is wholly applicable, because it's actually due arguably to events that were actually indeed within the purview and control of M, because she was the one arguably who started the whole thing with her relationship with Silva back in the 90s. But it's all the idea of cause and relationship, causality. That's the whole thing about legal proof. Oh, you're going? Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I'm almost done. And so okay, so there's that detail. Also, remember when Kincaid and Bond are on the moors, they're doing shooting practice. Their targets are like bottles or something on a branch or a tree. So that's fine. I understand that, and that's a nice recollection of earlier in the film where Bond is doing the target practice at the beginning, and he's off the sights and he's not quite on his game. But now he is, and so we realize Bond is back, and he's now on the top of his game. So that's great. But what um, what I always like, why would you have the gun practice be so like it's so close to the house? Like the house is in the distance, and they're targeting things that are right there. So if they missed, they could have easily had the bullet go through the window and could have hurt someone. I don't know, but so I would have had the target practice be in a way totally separate from the house, in a way that we know that was free from any possible person there. But anyway, that's okay. Fortunately, no one was injured. Um, and but those little minor things aside, the attack is very spectacular, and it has a nice build up to it. um the actual reason why Skyfall is chosen for this, I still don't quite know, to be perfectly honest. Why is Skyfall the place where Bond says this is where we will go back in time and this is where we will have the advantage? Why is that the case? Because there's a secret tunnel, or because they're not really well equipped. I think it would have been if M or if now Mallory is now allowing this secret operation on the part of Tanner and Q to take place to essentially lay a line of breadcrumbs, cyber breadcrumbs, in order to create the trail for Silva and his men to follow to pursue Bond and M. That would assume, well, first of all, it's all set up as being the secret, under the table, unofficial operation. So we're gonna get in trouble if we find out. But that doesn't make sense to me because Bond is with M, right? So M could have easily maybe approved the operations. He said, "I'm with Bond, so I approve it. Do what Bond said." He could, but she doesn't. So first of all, I don't understand that. They have Mallory's okay, it seems, but it's still a clandestine, unofficial operation. But even so, you'd think that maybe they could have provided maybe some kind of equipment to Bond. They could have sent things to Skyfall. I'm sure there must have been maybe some station nearby in Scotland in order for Bond's house to be equipped just in case the attack were to come. So I don't quite understand that. It reminds me a lot too of the timing in which the helicopters came to Silva's Island earlier in the film. They came just, they were there. They were already there, we can assume. They were already in a very close vicinity while Severine was still alive. And you can, I don't know, like helicopters that big, you would probably hear the noise from a distance. So I don't understand how Bond, my point is, I wish Bond could have dragged out the time a little bit longer because had he been able to wait a few more seconds, I think Severin could have survived the whole ordeal. It was just unfortunate that the timing fell the way it did, but I think it could have been such that he could have waited a little bit longer before, in order to prolong the thing just enough. Because I think he could sense that the helicopters were coming, because he acknowledged that there was a radio, that he had a radio beacon, and so so I wish he could have been able to figure out a way to prolong that situation such that Severin could have survived that ordeal. But we do see helicopters at the end of Skyfall here as well, and it's a great entrance. It's a great use of music. We see music used oft in Bond films, Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, View to a Kill, and others. So it's always nice to see this type of usage, and it's very effective in terms of the use of music as a means of attack. And I find that to be a very nice. I don't know if it's meant to be a subtle reference to the way that Sean Connery's Bond refers to the Beatles in the film Goldfinger, but I don't think it's meant to go that far. But in any event, it's the use of music here as an audible weapon, as well as the weapons that will be used to come. So. Yeah, but what was I saying? And so the attack. So it's one that I think I go back and forth on because it ultimately goes towards how I feel about the Silva plot to begin with. And I've explained earlier my feelings about the Silva plot. It's not quite clear to me how essential this is if this were a villain that had this master scheme of, say, taking over the world or putting the world up for ransom, or the list up for ransom, or something like it. It seems like it's a very unnecessary move for Silva to make, and that's also exposing him out into the open after it's very clear that he's carried out this huge attack on the. You okay? You okay? You need something to drink? You okay? All right. If you need a drink, let me know. I'm sorry. So it seems like if after he's carried out this attack on government officials and government property, it would seem like he'd want to go into hiding, but he doesn't. He's really bent on carrying out his mission of vengeance, if you will, against M. So that's probably the reason why. At this point, perhaps it is so much now a personal vendetta that perhaps in that way this attack on Skyfall makes sense. So, and in fact, the way it unfurls, we realize that the attack on Skyfall is not more. It's not really about plot strategy as much as it is about the way in which Skyfall is a representation of various strands of the psychological developments of each of these characters, namely speaking, M, Silva, and Bond. Bond, because of course of the links to his childhood and his parents, and the fact that he was an orphan, and Kincaid also brings light to a number of these elements of Bond's character as a young youth, excuse me. And then there's M, how M reacts to this, but also M's relationship with Silva. And this is the key, I think, to how I'm able to see the Bond M relationship, is how Silva expresses his relationship with M at the very end of this film here, which is that it's not just a mother figure, but it's also he is concerned when Silva sees that M is injured and has been shot, and we understand now mortally wounded. He expresses concern. My goodness, what have they done to you? I think it's significant that it was not Silva who inflicted that wound, but it was one of Silva's men. So it was someone who is not Silva himself. So I think that is not without its degree of significance. But now that we see him react in this way, there is this very there's very complex mix of sympathy and antagonism that the Silva character has towards him. And this is, I think, this is very much part of the dynamic that is set up of trying to hire agents to go into the field. We understand Silva was an agent. We can probably understand that he was chosen because of certain aspects of his own childhood and background. We're not privy to those, but if they are anything similar to what Bond's experiences were as a child, then perhaps that could lead to some reason or to some basis as to why Silva is expressing these ideas of how M is like a mother figure to him. And if that's the case, then the idea of Bond viewing M as a mother figure, I think, makes all the sense in the world. He is an orphan. We understand that. And perhaps he sees, therefore, M standing for mother. I think the symbolism is very clear. Perhaps too clear, I'm not sure. But in any event, that is probably the basis for the emotional relationship between Bond and M. Does it work? Does it work all the way? I don't know. I'm not quite sure. As I say, for the reasons that I tried to cite earlier in this live stream, I think it could be said that, in fact, M's decisions led to Bond nearly being killed. M's decisions quite arguably led to the hard drive list falling into the wrong hands, which is why perhaps M is feeling all manners of guilt and self-reflection, especially during those quiet moments before the storm at the end of the attack on Skyfall. This is all, I effed it up, as she says. And so I think one way to look at that is indeed that's the case because of the actions that have occurred. But even if that were true, that still does not take away the fact that it's still possible to see M in this type of mother role in terms of the application of discipline, the idea of a symbol of order, and a symbol of a kind of stability, which I think Judi Dench's M obviously shows. I think she's I would suggest she is more quote unquote motherly in the Pierce Brosnan run of films that she did. But be that as it may, I do see the parallel. And if that's the case, then I can definitely see that as the basis for the Bond M emotional relationship. A lot was said that, this is perhaps the most significant relationship in the Daniel Craig era. And I think that's correct. I do appreciate the fact that M, when she was dying in Bond's arms, I do like the fact that she didn't. You remember the scene with Mathis in Quantum of Solace? Like Mathis is dying, and hold on for 1 second. ごめんね。レオごめんね。ごめんね。レオごめんね。ちょっとお願い。ごめんね。ごめんね。ちょっとありがとね。バイバイ。後でね。Sorry. What was I saying? So yes, so the death scene with Mathis and Mathis in the film Quantum of Solace. Remember, Mathis is there, and like Mathis has lived this long life, and he's at the moment of dying, and he knows it, and he chooses this moment of dying. What does he say? He doesn't talk about the loves of his life. He doesn't talk about that secret thing. He doesn't say, it's not a rosebud moment for him. His rosebud moment is, forgive Vesper, Bond, forgive I don't know how that becomes a rosebud moment for Mathis, but in any event, I'm glad that I think M had more of what could be said to be a type of rosebud moment, and it seems like I'm glad she didn't say, make sure you forgive Vesper. I'm glad she didn't say that. So, um, and so yeah, but that's anyway. I think that's so. Therefore, Skyfall, the attack on Skyfall, I think serves a number of different functions, and I think it could work for others. It might not work for others as well, and I can see both sides of that because I too fall. The pendulum for me swings in those directions depending on my mood. So, but if I can identify the good parts, I think those are the really good parts, very much so. Okay, so but actually, now let me just continue on and try to finish what it is I was planning to say, which is this leads me to the characterizations. I mentioned M and Bond. There's a character of Mallory, which I think is really well established. There's this thing about having a character that's established as being maybe not so likable, as being a little bit you know, not quite sure if you're supposed to like him, but then he's set up as you actually he becomes a type of hero figure. And when the attack on M in London occurs, I think he shows the type of person that he is. Although here's another thing, I mentioned how I'm so why did they have the target practice so close to Skyfall? There's a very similar moment that happens when Silva attacks M at the committee meeting. You remember? There's a whole thing where the shootout is happening, and Bond actually points his gun at Mallory at a moment. He's like, and he winks and he shifts his hand and he shoots the fire extinguisher and shoots the fire extinguisher on this side, and that just has the little bits of the whatever it is, the mist. Although I'm not sure, I've never shot into a fire extinguisher directly. I've never done that. But that happen? Would there be that much emission of gas in that way? I'm not sure, but for that sustained amount of time. But in anyway, there's that moment where Bond actually points a gun at Mallory. I never understood that, to be perfectly honest. I thought that was rather, I don't know, it's rather scary. Um, right? There's a moment in Dawn of the Dead, the George Romero film, where a similar sort of thing happens, and one of the characters gets really angry when that happens. And I could understand if I were Mallory, I'd be, "Why did you do that, Bond? I thought we were, we were on the same side. Don't ever do that again." I would have done that if I were Mallory and he came into the office at the end. He was like, "There's a lot of work to do, Bond, but before I give you this assignment, I just want to let you know I appreciate all you've done for Her Majesty's government, but please don't ever point a gun at me like that ever again." That's what I would have said. But anyway, still, I understand that was probably another trailer, in order to get the wink moment from Daniel Craig's Bond. But it was also cool because it was a really, it showed Mallory who he was, and it showed Money Penny, and that it would have. Did Tanner get a chance to do that? I'm not sure. If not, it would have been cool if Tanner got a moment too. But oh well. But Tanner has his own gifts. Um, but yeah, that moment too. There, I love this film too because it's one of the films in the Bond franchise where we get sequences in London as well. I love it when you have these sequences in London, and there's the what was it, the Ulysses Tennyson, I think, um, and the whole cutting back and forth between Bond running and the need for a bravery and steadfastness in the face of doubt and dismay, and we realize that M's husband passed away. He refers to him as her late husband. So I think we saw what I assume is M's husband in Quantum of Solace, because they have two phones, and she's putting on her, I think she's washing her face and getting ready for bed, and we hear him talk. So maybe is that M's husband, or maybe that's a companion of M. Maybe M's husband died previous. I'm not sure actually. So anyone who knows M's background about that, please let me know. But it figures into who that person was in Quantum of Solace. But in any event, the yes, so that's that character. I think much was mentioned between about the character of Moneypenny as displayed in, or as portrayed in this film. Excuse me, and it's I think it's a really fine performance, and I like the backstory element. I like she's in the field. I like that it is she who caused him to fall. In essence, I mean, it wasn't her fault, as it were. I mean, she didn't do it on purpose, of course, but circumstances that involved her directly led to what happened to 007, as it did at the start of the film. And it causes this great rapport between the two of them. I like when they're getting ready to go to Macau, and there's the shaving scene. He likes to do things the old-fashioned way with a straight razor. and he allows her to do the straight razor thing. Although I think, I think when when there's no rules of shaving, but usually one wants to go uh, with the grain or parallel. What is not parallel? What is it? Perpendicular to the grain. So if the grain means the line of the hair. If the line of the hair is like this, growing out, going downwards, you want to go with the grain, or you want to go sideways. You never want to go up because that usually causes what's known as what's the phrase? Ingrown hair stubble, I think. And I think she does that a little bit at the end there. She goes up. And I assume that's going against the grain. So I'm not sure. That could be a faux pas for anyone who is very into the use of straight razors, the strop and everything like that. There's I mean, it's not a Bond film, but there's a great use of the shaving cream in the Hitchcock film Spellbound with Gregory Peck, if anyone knows that film. But well, so the scene between M and not M, between Bond and Moneypenny, it's not quite sure what happens there. There might have been maybe some continuation of that scene because it cuts straight to Bond entering the casino on the ship or the boat. So what did they? What was the phrase? How do you kill 5 hours in Rio if you don't samba in Moonraker? So what happens between that scene and the Carnival? Right, we're not sure what happens between this scene, at the end of this scene between Moneypenny and Bond entering the casino. We're not sure, but I like that kind of ambiguity because it's consistent with the type of ambiguity that we saw, as people have mentioned in the live chat, from the very start with Dr. No, vis-a-vis the relationship between Bond and Moneypenny. So the character of Silva too, I should mention, the Javier Bardem characterization. I think it's very effective. A lot of people have mentioned it as being one of the most effective Bond villains in recent films of the series. I can go along with that if people have that view. As I say, I think for me it goes towards what Silva's plot was to begin with, and oh, gomen ne. Arigato. I'm almost finished. You hungry? Oh, right. Sorry about this. So it goes. My views on Silva as a character go towards how I feel about his plot and what his plan was. But regardless of that, I think how he certainly devotes a lot of energy to his plot and his plan. And I think what's interesting is whenever you have a film that is dealing with the ins and outs of cyber terrorism, I think there's a lot of possibility for as an audience member like me to get lost because it's very hard for me to keep up, to be perfectly honest. And so if you have this, and I'll be perfectly honest, I think maybe Spectre falls a little bit in that category. But as I say, I'll talk about Spectre later when we get to that. But the point here is that even though we have all this potentially what is known, I think, in general film parlance as sort of technical gobbledygook, still you have a character like Javier Bardem's Silva, and you have the famous scene with his introduction and the story of the rats and the coconut and his mannerisms and the whole tension between him and Bond, and how Bond is trying to deflect this type of. You okay? I'm almost done. Go man now. I'm almost done. You want me to finish? Yeah.
I finished this course.
Oh, okay. Do you want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
You want to go to the next one? All right. Should I finish up soon, or can you handle it okay on your own? If you want me to, okay. All right. Give me a few more minutes. You're so much better at this than I am. You got to show me how to do it. You have to teach me. All right. But anyway, buddy, I'm almost done here. What was I saying? So yes, so many aspects of the Silva characterization I think are really very, I think, well established. Is Silva my favorite Bond villain of all time? I don't know. It's the jury is still out for me, as it were, and I love Bond films, and so there are so many other Bond films that I really love, and so many villains that I think are so villainous that it's not. I'm not sure yet. And as I say, too, if Silva really wanted to get at M, I think there could have been a more practical way of doing it. But all that being said, it's undoubtedly a very effective performance, and it's effective performance for the modern era of Bond and Craig Bond films. That's for sure. And I think it's a fine performance by the actor, and very memorable indeed. So um, I think that is almost all I have to say about Skyfall for now. I think. Um, how long have been at this? Hold on, give me 1 second, please. Okay, so it's almost we're almost hitting 3 hours here. So um, I I didn't mention the song by Adele. I think it's a fine song, although I don't I it does a little bit of editing of the song in the opening titles, and so I like the full song. Of it, and I do like that opening titles sequence. Although it does remind me that there's a lot of like silhouette and moving, and it reminds me a lot. There's a lot of View to a Kill motifs that I see, especially at the end of the View to a Kill opening titles. Dance into the fire, that sort of thing. Um, is that my favorite title sequence? I'm not sure. I think so far in the Daniel Craig run, I really like Casino Royale's title sequence, and here I love that. Oh, here's Eva Green's face. Very quickly. But um, and but yeah, it's a fine title sequence. It has all the hallmarks of sort of the traditional feel, if you will. But ultimately, in the end, is this my favorite James Bond film? Not sure. Is it my favorite film in the Daniel Craig era? Actually, I'm not sure. And I think for me, maybe it's Casino Royale, and then Quantum of Solace, and then Skyfall. But I hope that is not suggestive of the fact that maybe I dislike the film, because I want to suggest, I want to say that throughout this live stream, I've tried to say how much I actually do admire the film. There are many traits and attributes that I really admire. I like how Bond is fragile. I like the Man with the Golden Gun references both to the novel and to the film. I like the references to License to Kill. I love the references to not Live and Let Die, to The Living Daylights. I love the rain. Last time I was mentioning, are there any scenes involving rain in James Bond? Here we go. We have another rain sequence in London in when M is writing the obituary. Of course, it's a very cleanly applied rain. It's one of this rain where it's not rainfall when it hits the window is meant to be. Oh, all right. あと10分. Sorry about that. What was I saying? So rain in when rain falls and hits the window, it's the pitter patter of the rain. It's supposed to be uneven, but the rainfall in M's, wherever it is, office, or I'm not sure, but when she's writing the obituary, is very uniform. It's like a hose hitting the window, which I'm not sure, but um, and also, why would she be writing the obituary? I'm not sure. Wouldn't she have her assistant do that? But oh well. But maybe that's a sign of, maybe that's the kind of respect that she had for Bond. And in fact, Bond says, I hated what you wrote. I liked that bit, but I didn't like the rest of it. So that's maybe suggestive of how there is a type of respect that M has for Bond initially, and maybe that's something that she does with all the people who fall in the field, as it were, under her watch. And if that's the case, then that does show, I think, inherently a sense of the feeling that M has. I mentioned the M Bond relationship here. Maybe M is cool and prickly, but maybe this gesture of her writing the obituary is a sign of how much care and thought and feeling that she has for her agents, including James Bond 007. So this film does have a lot of detail, and I hope that I've made it clear that while I don't claim to know all of the details, or claim to have everything in my inputted, I still think that if and when I'm able to explore and recognize and discover these details, I'd like to think that just like this one with the obituary in M, that it can lead to a better appreciation of Skyfall for me. You okay? Okay. But with that, my friends, the what was it? The the film for me is still new and it's still fresh. And it's, as I say, it's one that I have seen probably not so many times relative to the other Bond films, but it is one that I'm still going back to over and over again. And there are still questions that I have, but there are also a number of possibilities that I have been very happy to discover, and I look forward to discovering more as the years pass. So. Uh, Skyfall, right? Just like the psychiatrist when he's asking Bond, all these word associations, just like day wasted. I certainly hope the day wasn't wasted for you, my friends. With for those of you who are still here with this live stream, but right, what does he say? Skyfall, and the Bond look. Skyfall, done. Anyway, thank you very much, my friends. And I will go to the chat here and we will be done. Let's see. Oh, and also now let us begin to figure out what film you want to talk about at the next live stream. So let's see if you have any suggestions, please begin to let us know right now. But in the meantime, I will go through the chat. And yes, okay.
A bit. ごめんね、カメちゃん。
どうしたの？カメちゃん何かあった？ごめんね、カメちゃん. Okay, here we go. So I'm at the part where, let's see. I'm sorry, just scrolling down here. Again, if I skip over your comment, I'm so sorry. Let's see. Samuel Stevens, hello. Lois Maxwell actually came up with the idea for a female M. Damn Fool says if Dalton was in a Craig era story, it would be over in about 5 seconds, completed and without a cell phone. Yes. Just like at the start of right. Well, actually, would have been completed. He said, I'll report in an hour. Better make that 2. Maybe it would have taken 2 hours instead of 1. Who knows? But anyway, that's a little joke for anyone who knows the Living Daylights. By the way, does anyone know how many S. Suttons there are in the United States? I've always wanted to know the answer to that question. Sorry, random view to a kill question. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down here. Wonderful chat, by the way. I love it. I absolutely love it. Taylor Bessinger is here. Hello, Taylor. Thank you very much. Very kind of you, my dear friend. Thank you. I hope you're well. Unkar Buzz, very kind of you. It's nice to see you. Unkar Buzz, thank you so much. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You always reply to not just my comments, but to comments of others. So I love it, my friend. I love it. Thank you. Tea or scotch in your glass. This is barley tea, Japanese tea we call in Japanese mugicha. And so it looks like some kind of spirit, but it's not. It is morning after all. It's not Earl Grey tea, though. Seth Walsh says, thank you for Japan for Pikmin and Dice. Do you like Pikmin too? I love Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Our family is a huge Pikmin 3 Deluxe. We are a fan of that. Pikmin 3 Deluxe and Splatoon 2, right? Splatoon 2. Anyone else is excited for Splatoon 3? When we saw that trailer, I was like, wow, amazing. I mentioned before about the Mission Impossible trailer, and I say I don't watch trailers anymore, but I saw the Splatoon 3 trailer. So actually,
Papa, Mario 3D.
Mario 3D, right? Mario 3D too. There's also it's called what is it? Fury World, I think. Not Fury Road, but Fury World. I want to play that one. Yeah,
You
yeah.
have it.
Well, no, not the new one.
Yeah.
Not the new one. I want to get that. Maybe for my birthday. Yeah,
Yeah.
or maybe for Mom's birthday. Maybe we can get it for Mom's birthday. What do you think? Huh?
Yeah. Almost is mom's purse.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Thank you for remembering. But yeah, we don't want to spoil it. We're gonna have a surprise, right?
For mom.
For Mom, yeah, because she works so hard, and she does such a good. She does she does so many things for us, right? So we gotta get her a present that she really likes. We'll think about it. We'll talk about it. You want to talk about it later today?
And Mario and Koopa fight one.
That's right. They're fighting, right? Mario and Koopa fight.
And Mario Party.
Yeah, Mario Party too. Mario Party is so much fun. Yeah.
Can you wait?
Sure. Okay.
Can you wait?
Sure. I'll be here. Okay. No. Why don't you go? You want to go this way?
Can you wait?
Okay. Mom's still here.
Can you wait?
Sure. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Vaughn is here. Hello. It's nice to see you. Let's see. Vinther 1991. Hello. There seems to be a strong influence from the Silence of the Lambs and Skyfall. That's interesting. You're talking about the
and Mario Mansion.
Oh, Luigi Mansion, right?
Yeah.
Luigi Mansion, and also
This one.
yeah, and then Super Mario Deluxe too, right?
Yeah.
Super Mario Deluxe is hard. Oh yeah.
Minecraft.
Yeah, Minecraft too. Minecraft's so hard. Like I always have to, what, like you're trying to dig in Minecraft, but then the hole gets so deep you can't get out. I hate when that happens. I don't know how to get out of those holes. I always have to, like, how do I get out? I just keep digging a deeper hole, and I don't know what to do. I have to start over again. So I think I have to try to.
You can do up like that.
Oh, you can jump up.
Yeah.
I think I have to make stairs in the soil. And I have to make like kind of staircase in the soil. But I don't know how to do that. It's so hard because it's like, how do I dig? I just have like this block that I'm digging. You want to do that? Okay. Can I? I'll figure it out. I'm almost done here. Can you give me another 5 minutes? Can you give me another 5 minutes? Oh, okay. I'll help you. I'll help you here, buddy. I'll help. Not a problem. All right. So, okay. Let's see here. Whoops. Oh, it's not responding.
Minecraft.
What? Oh, it's not responding. Can you get Karen? Because I'm pushing the button here and it doesn't work. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I know why. There we go. What? It doesn't work. Why is that? Can you ask Karen? Because, oh, wait, here we go. And I got it. I got it. Aha. See? There we go. If at first you don't succeed, try again. There we go. Yes, we are good to go. All right. Where was I? Yes, sorry about this. Arian Mosavi is here. Hello. Talking about the plane scene in Dark Rises and License to Kill. Yes, that's a very good point. Oh gosh, I was just thinking about that scene in The Dark Knight Rises with regard to another film, and I'm just forgetting that reference now. It escapes me, but thank you very much for mentioning that. You're absolutely right. Let's see, 5 bags of popcorn. Great name, by the way. Let's see. Talking about other actors who could have played Bond. I see Burt Reynolds, James Brolin. There's a great, I don't know if you know, the AFI there's that AFI best greatest films of all time thing, and there's a there's one of the earlier episodes, the earlier broadcasts where Burt Reynolds is talking about Orson Welles and Citizen Kane. Great stuff about how, it was about how the news was in black and white and Citizen Kane was in black and white. It was a really great comment. But let's see. Um, it never made right. It was all the thing about right. Uh, Also, John Gavin. John Gavin was going to be Bond as well. That would have been really interesting. Let's see. Seth Walsh talking about the knife, yes, and the way that Silva ends up in the film, yes. Vinter 1991 says, is Skyfall kind of an anti-Bond film with the villain attacking Bond's mansion in the climax and ultimately succeeding in his mission? Yeah, but I mean, but it in that way it could be said to be a very consistent Bond film, especially if we recall something like Casino Royale, the other version, the '67's Casino Royale. So, um, let's see, Bry Guy 5622. Is that Tokyo breakfast beer? Yes, it's barley tea. So I've never been so good with alcohol in the morning. So, and I'm not a strong drinker to begin with, and I don't drink as much. I never was a heavy drinker, but I don't drink as much anymore at all. In fact, maybe I have a drink. I mean, it has a lot to do with not going out anymore. With company gatherings and the like, because of the current world health crisis. But before that, we'd have, say, like company parties. I don't know, maybe once every 2 months or so, or something. Once a month, maybe not a bit too much, but yeah. Samuel Stevens says Mendez gives us the most Hitchcockian psychological Bond. Well, that's interesting. Spectre is almost his Marnie moment. Oh, he toys with redeeming Bond when he refuses to kill Blofeld. That's an interesting Marnie. Okay, I'm gonna have to consider that. I've never thought about that comparison, but I'll certainly think about that. That's interesting. Okay. Um, Uncle Buzz, Skyfall, similar to El Dorado. Yes, Bond and Wayne are limited by age and conditions. They both overcome using wisdom and ingenuity. That's a really good comparison. Yes, there is definitely there's I mean, we mentioned Straw Dogs, and Nightmare on Elm Street, Home Alone. There's also Howard Hawks, most definitely at that final part of the film, and westerns. That's for sure, most definitely. Um, uh, let's see. Uh, Damful says, one of the things I hate most in the Craig characterization is he continually makes blunt decisions without thinking, which causes innumerable complications that no intelligence man would make. Bry Guy 5622, all Bond needs are girls, gadgets, car chases, gunfights, poker, gambling, villain monologues, and the theme song. Erwin, the ending is also a bit like First Blood. Yeah, the bad guys are on his territory. Cooper Glover says, Daisuke, the audience probably doesn't care. Yeah, for the most part, the holes in the plot. Yeah, it's an entertainment. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I totally get that. Damn fool, without a properly worked out and intelligent story, Bond film doesn't work. The script and plot hook is vital. As I wrote there, exactly. Damn fool. With each Craig film, there are more and more people I see walking out completely disappointed it wasn't a Bond film like they expected. Unkabaz says, hey, Aaron, don't you mean Last Blood? Brian Guy 562, I enjoyed every Craig film. But hey, I liked View to a Kill and Die Another Day. I'm looking forward to talking about Die Another Day. In fact, I really am. Um, yeah, I saw that the other day, and I actually, I'm looking forward to that very much, very very much. Let's see. Sorry, just scrolling down here. I'm really sorry if I'm skipping your comment. Mikey, yes, Cooper Glover and Mike Gilly talking about some references made to some kind of use of substances referenced in Bond, as well as the idea of the scenes, the amount of scenes where we see Bond imbibing alcohol. So yes, that's a very good point to make. Um, and Arian Masabi is talking about the books and Benzedrine. Yes. Let's see. Start scrolling down here. Damn fools. Yes, Benzedrine helps with missions, not recommended for everyday use. um, let's see. Talking about my where I grew up. Well, that's thank you very much for the expressing an interest. Thank you. Yeah. Um, Damful says the 007 branding and iconography is still in the public mind, but it is becoming more and more subdued with the extended gaps between films and competition. Yeah, that's true. Um, Kevin says, imagine Bond dumped M in a dumpster like he did Mathis. Yeah. Um, uh, Reference to Quantum of Solace. Yeah. Let's see. I'm sorry, just scrolling down here. Sorry about this. Bright Guy 5622. James Bond's best friend is Zukovsky. We'll talk about Zukovsky when we talk about The World Is Not Enough. That is another interesting relationship, as you, I think, allude to quite rightly. I like how he says, strangling the cat. Yeah. Let's see. Mike Eli's referring to the comment I made about the fire extinguishers. Thank you very much. All for the wink as 5 bags of popcorn follows up. Yes. Wolfgrat says, I didn't get the Mallory aim either. Maybe that's Bond. Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure, yeah. There's an Elm Street in South Kensington, says 5 bags of popcorn. That's interesting. Really? 動物? 何の動物? What animal? Oh. All right. Going to have, this is a great chat. This is a really great chat. Thank you so much. All of you are wonderful, really wonderful. Oh, so I wrote that, and now we're at the poll. So we're beginning to get close to time here. So I'm going to ask now, what is the result of the poll so far? Can I ask? Let's see. Again, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to scroll down here. Also, my stomach is grumbling. There are 2 reasons. Well, actually, yeah, there are 3 reasons why I don't have the mic today. One is if I have the mic hooked up, you can hear my stomach growling and grumbling because I haven't eaten breakfast yet, and so it's always a little bit, maybe people, was that your stomach or something? But so that's one thing. The second thing, I remember the Quantum of Solace live stream. There were some moments where I think the sound became so loud. I was listening back and it hurt my ears. So I apologize about that. But so I didn't want to use that again. And also the third is because I just wanted to have a port in order to be able to plug in the power. Yeah. So anyway, let's see. So what's it's Goldfinger? Is it Goldfinger? Okay. Is that official? Have we given it enough time, Zyrother? Um, Cooper Glover, Damn Fool, Jared? Is it Goldfinger? Cube Shirley Bassey. All right. Dwayne Swartz is here. Hello. Kubrick directing a Bond film. That would have been interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. You know, I'm thinking immediately of the scene in Clockwork Orange. Um, Alec and Dim, right? Um, because right, the way he's dressed up, it's very similar to how Silva is dressed up as a policeman in Skyfall. So when Silva and Bond meet, maybe if it were in the hands of Stanley Kubrick, Silva would have said to Bond, "Well, well, 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 well." If you know Clockwork Orange, but anyway, yeah. Let's see. You know, and there is a Kubrick connection with James Bond for anyone who knows. You know, Ken Adam, um, and The Spy Who Loved Me. But all right. Sorry, I'm sorry. I wasn't saying anything. I was just still for a moment. I was having maybe a Daniel Craig staring out into the Scottish moors moment, I suppose. But anyway, so the okay, so it's Goldfinger. Okay, so the next film is going to be Goldfinger. Great. I'm looking forward to that very much. It'll be good to get back into uh, the Sean Connery era and James Bond. This is another iconic one. So many iconic scenes. Oh, is there still voting? Okay, you can still vote. I'm okay. How about this? The Zyrother, Damn Fool, Cooper Glover, Jared. You just let me know what the official film is. You can let the voting go on for as long as you want. I do have to go in a moment, but I'll wait. It's still in up in the air. Okay, no problem. It doesn't have to be Goldfinger. Okay. I'll just wait for the final word from someone. Zyrother, can you give me the final? Can you give me the final one? Just the official word, or anyone? Goldfinger. Okay, thank you very much, my friends. Goldfinger. Okay, so the official winner is Goldfinger. Congratulations, Goldfinger. Congratulations, Goldfinger. Thank you, thank you. So please, keep all those pencils intact. You don't have to break them in frustration. You've won, Goldfinger. So keep that pencil unbroken because you can use it for another day. To play cards or whatever. But anyway, the uh, let's see. So Goldfinger will be the next one. So I will keep. I will just try to schedule the next one. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but we'll have to figure out um, when the next one is. Um, and hopefully it's very soon. So thank you so much for the voting and for choosing that really excellent film. Oh, and thank you, Inboard 3R Lin 3 for getting the pencil reference. I really appreciate that. It makes me very happy. And so, yeah, because Cooper Clever says yes, we love only gold. Yes, gold. Uh, right. Slazenger, Slazenger one, right, and um, uh, yeah, golf. Let's have a little fun with Mr. Goldfinger. There's a lot of destruction. Pencils getting destroyed. Golf balls getting destroyed. I don't want to be a pencil or a golf ball in a James Bond film. That's for sure. But I love. I There's a lot of also running in the film Goldfinger, and I love the agents, the CIA agents, Felix Leiter, the scenes of them running down steps and things. There's something very charming about the way that they run. Um, and I also know the number three equals the number seven in the world of 007, as we know, right? Uh, 3 ticks equals 7 seconds in this world of mathematics. So, and so that's interesting. Also, whenever one counts down from five, 4, 3, 2, you go from 2 to 0, and but there's of course a lot of very iconic stuff there. The song is iconic, the look is iconic, the character is iconic, the plot is iconic, the plot details are iconic, but it's also one where there's a lot of fun going on. There's also a lot of engagement going on. A lot of the details that are really quite amazing. Um, a lot of uh, uh, you know. Um, oh gosh. Um, there are a lot of really human moments too. Like there's a moment where Bond and Tilly are in the car, and they Bond does one of those things with the Aston Martin, and there's a moment where Tilly is laughing, and I thought that was such a charming moment, and it reminds me of the moment where Bond and Melina are driving in the countryside and. For your eyes only, he says, "Oh, I love that drive in the country, don't you?" And then she laughs. It reminds you of that moment. They almost break the fourth wall, kinda, and it's a meta moment. We're just laughing. And you realize that it's a fun moment that we can all enjoy, and of course, it leads in Goldfinger. It leads to a really terrible conclusion, but we'll of course talk about that in other bits of the film when we get to that. So Goldfinger, congratulations! I'm looking forward to that very much. Yes. So anyway, we will do. Uh, we will do I don't know when the schedule will be, but as soon as I figure it out, I will let you know. Probably it will be another Sunday, but we shall see. We shall see. But not next Sunday, but maybe the one after that. I'm not sure. But I will make the announcement when I can. And yeah, so thank you so much. So in the meantime, I don't want to forget anything or anyone. If I have, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Um, there were a number of super chats as well, so I want to thank you so much for that. Again, uh, it's uh, I mean I don't I I never ask for super chat. I don't super chats aren't necessary for me to do these live streams, but the fact that you did that was very kind. I don't know what to say except really thank you so much, thank you. Um, and yeah, thank you very much, my friends. Um, and that's it. So I think that's it. I think we're okay. How was that? I think we're all good to go. Or any last minute things before we go? I'll give it another minute or so. And until then, my friends. Oh, Adi Kravitz is here. Hello. It's nice to see you, David Calhoun. I think I've said, but let me say hello again, David. And if I didn't say hello to you in the live chat, I really apologize. So apologize to that. But that. Oh, did you do something? Oh my goodness! You gotta let me know. Oh, you gotta show me. You gotta show that to me. All right. All right. All right. Okay. I gotta save that. Okay. Save that. I gotta show that to me. Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm so let's see. Oh, Mike says, "Dang, I don't know why my messages were your messages deleted. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I didn't. If that was my fault, I apologize. I didn't do anything, but I'm so sorry if you had messages that were deleted. That's. Oh yeah, but that's a quote from the film, or is it? I expect you. Yeah. It's a quote from the. Gosh. Is this a thing where YouTube is doing things automatically again? Oh, YouTube. Oh, you. Gosh. Oh, you know. Um. YouTube. What can I say about YouTube? What can I say about YouTube? Do you know the film The Poseidon Adventure? Do you know the film Poseidon Adventure? If you don't, that's okay. I won't spoil the film. But there's this. Well, actually, I don't want to. I don't want to say. I'm gonna. It's not really. It's not really language. It's not swear words. But my son is here. I don't want to use. It's not swear words. But it's.
Oh man.
Oh man. That's okay. That's okay. I'll save it for another day. But YouTube, yeah, YouTube. Come on. Just let us do our thing, and we're not here we're not here harming anyone. So and uh, thank you very much also for the concept of fair use. That's a very good, fair use doctrine is very important in the field of copyright law. But fair use, I just want to say one thing. Fair use doctrine is something that is very important as a kind of exception to the general rule of copyright law, which is the necessity to seek out the consent of a copyright or license holder before the use of a particular copyrighted work. It's called the fair use doctrine, and the idea being that the use of otherwise copyrighted work is deemed fair as a matter of public policy due to some kind of maybe advancement of some artistic achievement or purpose or education or understanding. Thus, fair use doctrine, the use of something in a fair manner. The issue with that is, of course, that the application of that is based on the assumption that something is being used. So, if nothing is being used, then no copyright is being infringed upon. But of course, we will leave it to the wonderful world of AI bots to lead us into the way forward, as I'm sure all of us are very much looking forward to. And if the sarcasm in my voice is not evident, then I really need to get more acting lessons. But in any event, my friends, thank you so much for your time. As always, it's great. And let's end with that whole word association game. I'll say day, you say wasted. That's okay. I won't be offended because that's a line from the film. But if you feel like the day was wasted, that's okay too. But I'll say day, you can say wasted. And I'll say Skyfall, and then you can say done. Okay? All right. So anyway, my dear friends, thank you so much. Thank you so much, my dear friends, as always. And it's such a great treat and pleasure to see you live, as it were, and to see some of you with so much. Oh, London からの愛ありがとうございました。London, yes, so London. I want to go to London again sometime. I haven't been in a long time, for many, many years. What's a good way to end with a parting memory regarding London? Let's see. Do they still have dime bars? I love dime bars, and I love dime bars. I love the commercials for dime bars. Do you remember those from the 80s and 90s? That bloke's a na'a. Oi, na'a. I love and he smiles at the what's his name? What's that guy's name who was in the dime bar commercials? I forget, but anyway, I really must go. I'd love to visit London again one day. Lucozade and just thinking about Lucozade. I haven't had that in such a long time. And oh my goodness, so many things. They still have Polo Mints, right? Are we still on? All right, are we still on? Okay. Anyway, my friends, sorry about this. I think it's time to go. So anyway, did I get lost? Am I still on? My computer froze. Am I still on? Am I still live, or am I cut off? Am I still? Okay. Oh, still on. Okay, thank you very much. So it's my computer. I don't know why. So it's doing that wonderful circle thing, still loading thing on my computer. Okay, so I'm still live. All right, my friends. Thank you so much, my dear friends, for this, and I hope you're well. And so let's end. In true Skyfall fashion. So I will see you again. Please continue to be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. So thank you very much, my dear friends. Day and Skyfall. Thank you very much. And now I will end with my impersonation of Daniel Craig looking out into the Scottish moors. Thank you very much, and cheers.